offer introduction and setting up a public hearing date for August 21st, ordinance 0-015, calendar year 2013, appropriation amendment 2000 cash. Someone like to offer it? I'll make the motion, please. Offered by Ms. Gabe.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now we move on to the 2013 municipal budget. Steve, do you want to read that resolution?
I don't have it.
Introduction.
I don't have the resolution. Is it in the packet?
Yes.
The revised packet.
Should be your packet document.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute.
And that's
This
gonna be
package,
resolution
right?
1315 up.
So this, yes.
Stable to something?
It's the municipal, you're talking about the municipal budget notice resolution you're talking about. You want me to read?
Yes.
Okay. Municipal budget of the Borough of Highlands, County of Monmouth for fiscal year 2013. Be it resolved that the following statements of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for the year 2013. Be it further resolved that said budget to be published in the Two River Times in the issue of July 26, 2013. The governing body of the Borough of Highlands does hereby approve the following as the budget for the year 2013. But let me just read one other thing before you give the vote, okay? Okay, a hearing on the budget and tax resolution will be held at the municipal building on August 21st, 2013 at 8 o'clock, at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2013 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons. And I don't know if the council would need to update them on where we stand before they vote or not.
I think that'd be good for the public.
Okay. After I spent quite a bit of time with the state, obviously with this budget because of Hurricane Sandy, and they were extremely helpful and got us to some sources of some potential loan money that we may not have gotten to without their help. The budget is the operating budget is $2.1 million dependent on FEMA money, and that's in the form of reimbursements for what we've already laid out and for loans. We also are carrying FEMA money in the sewer budget. When we put this all together and we analyze where we were and how revenue was being generated in the borough and what was coming in through taxes, we have an appropriation, a large appropriation in the budget that's called the Reserve for Uncollected Taxes, in which we're responsible for covering the shortfall to all the other taxing entities in the borough. That would be the county, the two schools, and the business district for any uncollected taxes. We have to make sure we pay them at 100%. At the time we started this process, we were tracking 89%, down from, we were a little over 96% in the prior years. I monitored that daily as we worked on this budget, and we were able to increase that percentage to 92%. But that increased that appropriation, that line item, by $585,000. Very significant. It's now sitting over $1 million. And hopefully that the tax collection rate comes in higher than the 92%, because that will help us tremendously in future years. And working with the state, we wanted to keep the tax impact of all the budgets within the borough to a minimum. Realizing that we needed a little bit of growth because of the situation with Sandy, we needed to generate some extra revenue. But we decided that we would stay at 2% or less as a total increase of all the taxing entities in the borough. So right now, we're sitting at 1.92%, and the large help of that was Highlands Board of Ed, which also applied for a community disaster loan and was granted some funds from that program. So per 100,000 of assessment, the increase would be $49 a year. Okay, so people would be looking at their own assessment. They can figure out where that's going from there. That's pretty much, I think, what people want to hear more than anything on this is the tax impacts of this budget. The state, we went through the revenue side with the state, what they wanted us to not do, which we didn't do. But again, the main thing about this budget is we are very dependent on FEMA for at least this year. And in case people don't realize, the borough has gone from a fiscal year to a calendar year. This will be our first year back to a calendar year from 1991. Okay, so unless anybody on the council has a question, that's kind of what I wanted to say.
So I would like to make a motion offer to introduce.
I'll make that
Motion
motion.
by Ms. Ryan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Francie.
Francie?
Mr. Francie.
Yes.
Ms. King.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda. I believe, Dale, you wanted to move resolution R 13-152, the change order for L&L.
Yeah, Madam Clerk, let's remove that for tonight. We're still negotiating the final quantities with the contractor. So as such, there's no payment on for tonight because it's still being worked out.
So would someone offer a motion to approve the consent agenda R 13-152?
So moved.
Offered by Mr. Francie. I'll second it. Second by Ms. King. Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Francie. Ms. King.
Yes.
Moving on to other resolutions. Resolution R 13-132, this is a resolution for liquor licenses.
Right, so we need a motion to amend the resolution to remove C Street license 1317-33-08. Right.
So the motion for the amendment to remove this item. Offered by Ms. King.
Second it.
Second by Mr. Redmond.
Now you're just voting to remove C Street.
That's
That's
right.
right, to remove the one.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Francie.
Yes.
Ms. King.
Yes.
So now we need a motion to approve the resolution.
Right.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Offered by Ms. Ryan. I'll second. Seconded by Ms. King. Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Francie.
Yes.
Ms. King.
Yes.
Resolution R 13-143, this is a resolution for approval to ratify and extend no license premises for a day in August. Public service. And it was reviewed and approved by the chief of police.
I'll make the motion to approve that.
Offered by Ms. King.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Francie.
Yes.
Ms. King.
Yes.
Resolution R 13-146, this is a resolution supporting the bids.
Okay, I'll offer that.
Offered by Ms. Ryan.
Just as a matter of explanation, this is a loan application for $530,000, I believe.
Yes.
$530,000
$530,000 to help kickstart the flood. Yes.
to get the flood control program modified to deal with some aspects of the waters coming off of 36 and to get the flood control program started.
Okay, and this is the high tide full moon project. It's not the Sandy project. Okay.
Okay, so that was offered by Ms. Ryan.
Second, I'm sorry. Second.
Second by Mr. Francie. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. King? Yes. Resolution R 13-147. This resolution was amended, it's going to be amended, I believe. Resolution making an emergency appointment of a part-time clerk two, whereas there is an immediate need for a secretary within the building department, and whereas said position was advertised and interviews are being conducted by the borough administrator, whereas it is the recommendation of the Borough Administrator that Nancy O'Neill be appointed as an emergency part-time clerk two for a period not to exceed 30 days, while interviews are concluded pursuant to renewal of civil service commission for a period not to exceed 30 days. Now therefore be resolved by the governing body of the Borough Planners that Nancy O'Neill is hereby appointed as an emergency part-time clerk two. Be further resolved that said appointment be compensated at an hourly rate of
It's 15.
Up to
$15
$15
per hour, not to exceed 24 hours. 3 office hours will be established by the Borough Administrator. With that amendment, would someone offer?
I'll offer it.
Offered by Mr. Redmond,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Francie. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. King? Yes. Motion carries. Resolution R 13-148. That was a motion to table by Ms. King? Yes.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Francie. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Yes. Resolution R 13-139. Resolution appointing additional part-time building maintenance worker. That would be Charles Rommel for an amount not to exceed, would be an amount of $15 per hour, not to exceed. This is also contingent upon background check. Correct.
So moved.
Offered by Mr. Francie,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yep.
Ms. King? Yes. Resolution appointing temporary summer seasonal employees for the Borough Finance. Mr. Hill, do you want to speak about the needs on that?
Yeah, what we have is a workforce development program that had been in effect. Unfortunately comes to an end after a 6-month term, which is a good, bad thing. Two of the individuals that did work for us through the workforce development in the DPW area have expressed an interest in the seasonal positions that we have amongst other candidates. I would recommend that Mr. Tony Johnson and Mr. William O'Neill continue in that capacity. The seasonal positions that we generally have under the borough budget are budgeted items, and that would carry through to the end of August. That would be my recommendation.
End of this August.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right.
This one.
So the names, can we put names in?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, to the end of this August.
No, no, she needs her names first.
Anthony Johnson and William O'Neill.
And we were changing the dollar amounts to correct. Someone like to offer a motion?
I'll offer this.
Offered by Ms. Ryan,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. King? Yes. Resolution R 13-157. Resolution authorizing the award of non-fair local contract for engineering services with regard to the dissolution of the Atlantic County Regional Sewage Authority.
So moved.
Offered by Mr. Francie. I'll second. Seconded by Ms. King. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. King? Yes. Resolution R 13-158. Resolution approving prepayments to the Atlantic County Regional Sewage Authority.
Want me to speak on that?
Please.
Okay. What's happening is the projects that are going forward with the Atlantic Highlands Regional Sewage Authority are still underway. Their NJEIT funding hasn't come through yet, so they've requested from both towns money that we're going to owe them anyway. They just want to know if we can pay in advance. I checked with Mr. Pfeffer. He seems to think we're in good shape just to do 2 months at this point for them, and Atlantic Highlands is concurrence as well. They're expecting to hear any day now that they're going to get that loan. It's already in the process, but that was the request that came in from the sewage authority.
So moved.
Offered by Mr. Francie.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. King? Yes. Resolution R 13-159. Resolution appointing Dale Luther as select plan administrator.
Why are we doing this again?
I could speak to that if you like, Mr. Francie. Basically, the ordinance still, or the resolution still reads Paul Vitale, and the people from the community rating system flagged that. And so that had to be changed over into my name as part of their program. So we have to eliminate Paul and put my name in its place.
did the January 1st.
Well, you did by another resolution, but the book still, the land use ordinance still had in there Paul's name. So that, they said we had to do another resolution to change that.
So moved.
Offered by Mr. Lee, seconded by Mr. Francie. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yep.
Ms. King?
Yes.
Moving on to introductions, on for second reading and public hearing at this time is ordinance 0-13-9, an ordinance establishing a purpose for the borough residency and employment of the borough. This ordinance is published in its entirety in the June 28th edition of the New York Times and in the update to the public hearing.
Anybody have anything? Under this ordinance for 013-9 resident requirements? It's basically, and Chief, we put this on for you, right, for having
It's
a
both PD and civilians.
civilian, for having a preference for local, for your resident here?
I mean, if you live here and get preference,
You get
you're
employment.
allowed.
Yes.
How long do they have to comply?
It's during the
During the
application.
application process.
And that goes for,
We drafted it to the extent that you're permitted to. the maximum.
how long do they have to stay?
It's not closing date of the, no, it's not 5 years. I forget exactly what it says, but it's not as long as you would think, but we drafted it to the maximum extent the law permits you to do it.
Okay.
Melissa Matthew, Barbary. So my understanding is this is supposed to extend beyond the police force?
Yeah, it'll be
For any-
borough-wide.
For any employment within the borough?
Yes.
Okay. Is this going to still be predicated on the qualifications of
Oh,
individuals?
absolutely. If you're not qualified, if you're local, you're not.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Correct?
So there's still going to be a.
Or that would be.
Well, you never know.
This is still,
You still have to be
we still have to
qualified.
go through civil service, and there's a list, and when they give you the list, they just put anyone first in front of us.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none? Close the public hearing.
On for final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-13-9, an ordinance establishing a preference for borough residency and employment of the borough. Someone like to offer that?
All over it.
Offered by Mr. Redmond,
And I'll second that.
seconded by Ms. Ryan. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes.
On for second reading and public hearing is ordinance 0-13-10, ordinance amending section 3-2.2 prohibited noise to expand the application of the noise ordinance to all structures rather than only dwellings, and section 3-2.3 enumeration of noise of the code of the Borough of Planlos and to permit the playing of outdoor music until 11 p.m. on Sunday, September 1st, 2013. This was published in its entirety in the June 28th edition of the New York Times and being now be open for a public hearing.
Anybody have a question? Yes.
I don't think the changes were strictly for the structure, the work structure versus dwelling. We also discussed the issue of the outdoor music and the 100-foot rule, which isn't reflected in the ordinance. I think maybe we should put this ordinance off also.
You want us to table it to revisit this, to talk about the 100-foot?
Yeah,
Rule
we
of
discussed this.
hearing.
Yeah, we discussed this, and the changes aren't in the revision.
The chief and I had disagreed in our recollection of the meeting. My notes are that the changes were to the hours on Labor Day weekend, and also change the definition of dwelling to structure.
Yes.
Because in my
Yes.
interpretation, dwelling meant residential properties. Now, structure applies to noise coming from any structure. So the changes give the ordinance more applicability than it had before. And I don't recall, and I could be wrong too, I'm not saying that I'm right, but she's wrong. My recollection is that these are the only changes.
You're absolutely right, and we specifically verified, and I believe it was Sal sitting there. Sal sitting there, the issue was, right? That letting the audible at 100 feet remains, and it applies to all aspects of rules coming from the public. That was our intention.
Yeah, we discussed the outdoor music. 'Cause like I said, if you allow outdoor music, all outdoor music will violate 100 foot. rules are,
I think that's our point, Joe.
Huh?
That's our point.
yeah, the way I remember it, at that meeting was that was going to be exempted until a certain given time, that was going to be restricted enforced.
That's not my recollection.
Well, it's whatever, like I said, whatever.
Kim Scorpio, 315 F Shore Drive. I would urge the council to pass this because the van is going to be open, and if they violate the hours of the noise ordinance, I want to be able to call the police, and I want it to be able to be enforced. I don't want them to tell the police officer, sorry, I'm not a dwelling, nobody lives here, I can do whatever I please. And if Chief Blewett feels that more discussion needs to be made about a 100-foot rule or outdoor music, by all means, continue and revise the ordinance again as needed. But Havana's opening up. People on the council have been like, oh, don't worry about it, they're not coming back. They're coming back, they're doing work. So I urge the council to pass this.
Our intent is to pass it with the lately on the state.
John?
Yeah, John Bethford on Washington Avenue. I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing, but I got a little concerned about some of the language, just kind of subjective, just based on what I've been able to use it really quick.
Well, remember that there's very minor changes here, so what you might be seeing as subjective is what is currently your law right now.
Okay.
The only changes are where it's stricken out and underlined.
The plainly audible statement is not subjective. Sorry? No, plainly audible.
Meaning too loud.
Yeah, what's the definition of plainly audible?
Can you hear it at 100 feet?
100 feet. There's a lot of stuff you can hear 100 feet.
That's Joe's point. That is Joe's point.
You know, I mean, if it's addressing music and stuff, but I mean, if I like to think about all the stuff that goes around on my little neck of the world, I mean, you know, you can hear a can opener around 100 feet.
I don't think you're going to complain on it.
Okay, whoa. Let's hold on right here, boys and girls, okay? You know and I know some of the folks in this town, okay, as soon as you say, I can hear it from 100 feet, and they go and complain about it,
This is
they're
not
calling
a
cops
new,
on it.
John, this is not a new rule.
Uh-huh,
This is not a new rule.
okay,
This is not a new invention.
okay, but regardless, it's, you know, I mean, I can understand addressing the noise and stuff, but like I said, just thinking, you know, normal stuff that I can hear off my dad, I mean, you know.
Well, that, your
I got a chief and his whole police force like busy all day long, it's not my.
your can opener example, that's illegal under the ordinance now as it was whether this passes or not. Because the ordinance applies, it says plainly audible. from
Well,
this
maybe
club.
we ought to, like, you know, just because it was there before doesn't necessarily mean it was a good idea. Maybe we ought to like add some additional definition. Is this defined into what plainly audible means?
I do not believe.
I think we ought to put in what plainly audible means. Definition, plainly audible is defined as to mean X. So there's no ambiguity later on. Because you could argue, I mean, if you call, let's just look at this scenario. I call cops on somebody, hey, I can hear something 100 feet away. I feel it's plainly audible. If you don't have it defined, anyone can claim that.
If you file a complaint, that's up to you. But if the cop, if the policeman, if the policeman goes to that same spot, and the police officer goes to that spot and says, I don't think it's plainly audible, he's not gonna file us a complaint.
But that's subjective up to the officer.
And
But if
that's
you
the
have
whole
it-
point, that's.
But if you have it defined, then they can go to the ordinance, and that backs them up and says, according to our ordinance.
There's an inherent,
Jesus, John. We went to, this is 15.
No, I'm just saying,
You can't.
plainly, for some person,
John, have the.
What I'm saying is to help his guys when they show up and say, okay, you're in violation of the ordinance because it's plainly audible, which is defined in the ordinance to mean X. Because otherwise, if you're leaving it up to the person that responds, one cop could respond to something, the exact same situation, and say, well, this is plainly audible, this is a violation. The next cop could respond and say, well, I don't really feel it's that plainly audible. See, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
No,
it's-
John, we understand.
And what we can do is move on this and we can have those discussions with the chief.
Okay.
We need something that gives him some enforcement.
Okay.
You know, this is a step in getting PD enforcement. We need to clarify or something. We can have that meeting with the chief and, you know, give us perhaps some.
Nobody's come up with an alternative,
Right.
a workable alternative.
No, I'm just looking at it in terms of like laws, like what going forward, that's all I'm saying.
Plainly orderable or definitely. Something in between is what everybody would like, and nobody knows how to write it.
But it needs to, like I said, but I think it needs to be defined.
Okay.
You know, but it may not be it may not be just music. It could be noise.
Well, this ordinance addresses things other than music.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Motorcycles, you know, people playing their band, big music outside and
And
drums.
it's based on the
It could be
city.
anything.
We're not writing something on.
Right.
So it's,
Okay, Lori?
I'm just, as a follow-up on this, Lori Dibble, 30 Ferry Court. There, if you put a decibel level in there, then you have to have someone with a decimeter and someone trained in operating a decimeter. And that would be another
We
thing
understand
the
that.
police department would have. I'm just not sure that Mr. Bell.
I'm sure he does. When he's on the council when he used to have.
Oh, okay.
That's what we.
I'm sure we worked on this ordinance. On the
Yes.
council, so the hot item.
John Acton, 52 Barbary, two-part question.
Just
Plainly,
about-
I'm sorry, John Acton, 52 Barbary, a two-part question. First to Borough Council, isn't plainly ordinance something that would basically fall under the a reasonable man would assume, or a reasonable person would assume that if I can hear it, that's like, you can't define everything.
Right, I mean, it's a little different than the reasonable person. The general statutory construction is that if something's not defined, you take its plain and ordinary meaning. So a judge determining whether something is plainly audible or not, would probably say, is that able to be perceived or able to be heard plainly at 100 feet, or easily at 100 feet. That's probably how a judge would look at it, but those determinations are for your municipal court, not for the.
Got it. Thank you. And the second part would be to the chief. Is there a concern other than the fact that he's afraid that his officers will just be kept very busy with this? Or I'm not sure that the concern's been clearly articulated, or I didn't understand it. I know you've had communications with council, but
Concern's been ongoing for, I've been here for 23 years.
Okay.
We've had the same discussion for 23 years. We tried the noise ordinance with the decibels, which doesn't work. Didn't work for us, and I've done surveys, doesn't work for TV, they really don't. They say they do. Problem is we allow outdoor music, but like Mr. Bentham said, you can hear two people talking at 100. So there's conflicting allowances. On the other hand, we don't want, band across the street playing all hours of the night at reasonable noises, hours and levels. But there is ambiguous, plainly audible. That's ambiguous. That's why a lot of times we direct people to, sign home complaints, all the way. Our specific problem is we have residential neighborhoods with restaurants right in the middle. We're the third most densely populated town in this county, only behind Asbury and Kingsburg. So you literally 10 feet away, you have a house next door to Florida. It's no longer going to be allowed to have a band at all.
I guess my
Trying to
question,
balance the two is just so hard.
I guess my question then ultimately is you obviously have an issue with the language of the ordinance. What is it that you wanted council to do specifically?
Well, I didn't have a recommendation. What's important because of the outdoor music is that because of the 100-foot rule, you either have to allow it to a certain time or not allow it at all. And by putting allow and keeping the 100-foot rule in is going to eliminate any outdoor music at all.
No, he's saying at any time.
At any time.
So if the borough wants to permit,
I'm sure that's the
That's
case.
not what, but that's how it reads, right? I think that's what the chief's saying. I think, obviously.
Well, the problem I have is that chief hasn't offered us an alternative. as we talked about that, we've asked you, it's very clear to me that you represent the side that says, if there's outdoor music allowed up until 10 o'clock, it can be as loud as it wants. That's what you seem to be telling us.
That's the, well, when it comes to enforcement,
That we can't have.
we don't allow it. There is no in-between.
Joe, if that's the only way you're gonna be able to control it, that's where we're at.
Beyond that, again, it falls to discretion. I may think it's too loud, you may not, and then we take it to court, and the judge and that matter is not gonna.
You will get backed up 1,000% if you go up to a site and say, I don't think that's plainly audible, or I don't think that's unreasonable, or however you want to count it. And if the citizen feels differently, they can write a complaint. But what we need to change is the fact that only the citizens have to file a complaint. We have to get you proactively involved, you and your force. And we'll see where it goes, Joe.
Yeah, but again, we've gone nowhere. In 10 years, we have discussion every year. And again, we're right back where we were the first day I became chief. We're nowhere.
I think the game has changed at this point. You have an enforceable, changes made at your request.
Yes, I requested the.
It's now up to you to enforce it. If we don't like what you're gonna enforce, we'll have to deal with that down the road.
I just haven't had a chance to look at this one. Do the same restrictions apply if it's indoor generated music?
Yes,
Yes.
it's now a structure.
Okay. So if it's coming from the inside and if it's audible, then it's, okay.
Only-
Only Jennings. Only Jennings, 27 o'clock. Does running a lawnmower after 6 o'clock violate this ordinance?
I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
hear
your
that.
neighbor calls on you.
Well, we did 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Okay,
I mean,
but
it doesn't say that
it is
we-
in violation of the ordinance, and neighbor can call on you if you cut the grass after 6 o'clock in the
I mean,
evening.
if you've normally been doing your grass after 6 o'clock and nobody's called, I'm sure it's fine. It's the same ordinance that was on the book, it's just changing dwelling to structure.
But conceivably, one could call.
One could call on anything. One could call on anything.
Okay.
And they always would call on
You
anything.
can call yesterday, you can call today, you can call tomorrow. Nothing has changed about that.
Okay.
About noise. Hold on.
Carolyn Brouillon, 12 Miller.
Oh, no, hold on.
Sorry, I think it's actually quite, sorry, Carolyn Brouillon, 12 Miller. Sure. It's stated here in 32.2, Section B, that a change was made, because it is now underlined to say, unreasonably disturbing the peace, quiet, and comfort of neighboring inhabitants. To me, that appears to be quite clear and a lower level of subjectiveness in which the chief and his department could enforce this ordinance.
Yeah.
I'm just making the point that maybe the other people didn't read through the entire thing, but unreasonably disturbing the peace seems to be quite plain. That's all.
Okay. Ma'am? Bunny Rivera, 31 Woodland Avenue. My question is really to the chief. It sounds to me like he wasn't expecting what's written in the ordinance and he was expecting something else. So I'm just trying to clarify what he was expecting versus what's here. Is that right or am I wrong?
None right. Well, we had a discussion, we discussed specifically about outdoor music. And my contention was that any outdoor music, I mean, one person with the bar, and we heard it several hundred feet. So on one hand, where the ordinance said they're allowed outdoor music until noon at a time, on the other hand, automatically it's going to violate the
I think we should move on this to the changes that we have and then perhaps work review it. If we need to introduce it again to make it clearly audible, a little tighter, we can do that as well. Okay?
And Mr. Bentham, plainly audible is defined in there. It has not been changed, that's why I wasn't aware of it, but this is now. But it said, plainly audible shall mean any sound that can be detected acted by a person using his or her unaided hearing faculties. As an example, if the sound source under investigation is live entertainment or a portable or personal manipulative sound amplification or reproduction device, I guess that's the word speak for radio, the detection of the rhythmic bass component of the music is sufficient to verify plainly awful sound. The law enforcement officer need not determine the title, specific words, or artist performing the song.
Dude, I give up. Do what you want.
Whatever.
Okay, last time was my issue of very, very enormous avenue. Have we looked at other ordinances of other towns
Yes.
that, you know,
Nearly
that
every-
are?
Nearly
Yes.
everyone in
Yes.
Monmouth County.
Dozens and dozens and dozens.
Do they have a similar ordinance or?
I've spoken to chiefs
It
from,
seems to work in some areas and not.
I've spoken from chiefs from, God, down South Jersey, Ocean County, all the way up to Middlesex County.
We're pretty
We all
used
have
with
the
our
same
structure of
exact
ordinance.
issue, the same exact problem. The ordinances are all the same. They all have the same problems, every single one of them. None of them have the answer. None of them. Not
How
one.
about out of state, like, I mean, New York, which is where I'm originally from, they have a garbage problem.
Yeah, I mean, people crowd out to speak at the club. So,
And now, matter of fact, we looked at, we even looked at, I think Point Pleasant closing their bars early, which was shot down. We looked, I called in personally, I called every town from, like I said, Belmar and Point Pleasant all the way up to Newport, up to, Middlesex County. Every single one has the same problem.
Well, I think what we'll do is, I'll make a motion to move it forward, but I'd also ask that you meet with your commissioner here. And, if, you know, however we need to define clearly audible, we can move forward with that too. So, that's a public motion.
On for final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-13-10, and ordinance amending section 3-222, prohibited noise, to expand the application of the noise ordinance to all structures rather than office towers. And section 3-223, enumeration of noises of and over the borough grounds and to permit the playing of outdoor music until 11 p.m. on Sunday, September 1st. Someone offer that?
Walker.
Offered by Mr. Francis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes.
On for second reading and public hearing, ordinance 0-13-11, ordinance creating a downtown business improvement zone units within the borough limits. This ordinance was published in the June 20th edition of the River Times and now available for a public hearing.
Just to give a little background, this is an ordinance that we need to create to do the law that puts all the special flood mitigation projects, so it goes hand in hand. Creating this ordinance to be able to apply for that law.
And it reflects the ordinance that
Does this change any of the zoning that's currently along Bay Avenue?
This has nothing
No.
to do with
It doesn't. So what was the business in terms of district being defined as, and what part of town are their boundaries to it?
It's the whole town.
Yeah,
It's
the whole
essentially
town.
the whole town.
Right?
This, so this is related to the ability of the business partnership to get a loan and to do that sort of stuff. Does it carry with it special taxing powers, or that was one of my questions about the loan is, how does the loan get paid back? Does the loan get paid back by the businesses within these districts? And does this then allow you to add an additional tax to the businesses to pay that loan, or what, how does this
Well,
work?
they voted at their meeting, business association, they voted to move forward with that. So they're well aware of the costs that they're going to incur. They feel that it's very important.
Who's they, the executive board?
No, they're board.
Their board voted.
Yeah, their board voted, just like we vote, you know, they have their meeting. They voted to move forward with it because they want to jumpstart the flood mitigation project so that they can entice more businesses to come and have dry streets. And they want to keep the ones
So
that may be
does
on the
this,
fence.
so then, what other powers would this biz ordinance give to the Islands Business Partnership or to this group of people? Because it seems already that they now can encumber the business owners and the people who are taxed as business owners in this district with a loan that has to be repaid, what other powers does this give the government?
It gives them the ability to get the loan, which they voted on as.
Surely it gives them more than just that. What other powers does it give?
It requires more legislation to enact the powers you're talking about. Special improvement district, this is not it. This is separate from the special improvement district, which is what you're alluding to.
Well, I don't know how you know what I'm alluding to, because that's not necessarily what I'm alluding to. I'm just wondering, do we give them what, I'm asking what powers in addition to getting a loan?
Any additional powers would have to require further ordinances to set up a special improvement district. And those powers that we just were worried about are included within the SID designation.
Can you confirm that?
I can look into it, I don't know exactly, so I don't want to say something that's inaccurate.
But there's a second part of the question, ultimately the loan is guaranteed by the town, not the business.
So the town has to pay.
No.
Well, we are the ultimate guarantor. We are,
But the repayment plan right now is for businesses to have a separate assessment to pay that loan.
Marty, Buick, 50 Valley Street. Now, is there a plan that we can see that how they're going to spend this $500,000? It says flood mitigation. That could be hiring a consultant to come in and take a survey. If we don't know where that money goes.
Well,
Is there
this is the
something?
same project that we've been speaking about for years, the shovel-ready project that we've been speaking about for years, is about starting that project, getting, each stage of it moving along. So it's not gonna be a different project than the one that Chris has proposed. It's basically to jumpstart it and get it started.
and all that you could be shown would be verbiage that talked about what it was going to do. Specifically, dealing with the water coming off of 36, that we're essentially taking that water off of 36. The plan is to take that water off of 36 and run it directly out to the bay without coming up into Highlands in front of your property, the way it does now, all right? That's going to go right out to the public in a closed pipe, carrying all the sand with it rather than letting the sand clog the existing pipes. That's part of the flood control project, has yet to be designed, and that's the plan. This one is to facilitate that design and facilitate the construction of those tunnels, that is, those two pipes that take the water down, north, Valley North, drainage area, and Linden Water drainage area.
Okay. Now, I guess this has come up before, but since this is created on the Middletown side, why isn't the town in touch with them to have them covered because it's coming off of their?
I'll let John answer that because he tried to get that work done 10, 12 years ago. I'm trying to get Mama Pills to deal with it.
Yeah.
We have meetings yearly, but the reality is, we're suffering.
It's a useless battle. We have to take care of ourselves.
Because they are responsible.
They are responsible.
No, it's their fault.
The
They're not
state
being
is responsible, really, because at this point, they created a drainage system on 36.
I'm gonna let Bree go first, okay?
Celeste Navigate, 50 Barbary. So my understanding is that ultimately the town is responsible. So is there plan B if there is a default and the businesses do not repay that loan? And what is that plan B?
Well, I think it's not that they don't pay it, they would have to go to the Highlands Business Partnership, would be disbanded, there would have to be, it's already part of their assessment. Somebody, and they voted as a board to say, yes, I'm gonna pay it. We have to come in and be the co-signer.
They have insurance.
They haven't yet. There are mechanisms in place. I mean, it's just a formality of how it has to be done. I don't feel that that's going to happen.
It would be with any town except that had this program going on with DBIZ, okay? No matter what the town was, no matter what it has to have a not-for-profit to go for the loan, HVB, any town would have to be the guarantor. okay? It's not just that we're worried about it, whatever. We're not. This is just the way that the deed is set up the loan, and the HPV has insurance.
And in the end, it's really is a project that benefits all of us as a whole. It's not primarily a business thing that we're saying, you know, let's sign up for. I mean, it's gonna help everybody in the end with drier streets and.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's just that, you know, if it were to be somewhat ultimately the citizen's responsibility, then we should all have a big voice.
To clarify a little bit more, they're doing this loan,
That's a PFFER.
well, I said, this loan is facilitating something the town would have had to do anyway. And it's just another means to access funds that weren't available to the town. This is gonna be $500,000 that we would have had to spend. Now we don't have to bond it. They're already giving us as a loan, 0%.
0%.
Low interest.
It's zero.
0 interest.
It's zero interest.
Even better. So it's a complete win for the town. This is not the DBID or the HPP flying off the handle or doing something way different than the goals of the town. This is a completely symbiotic project.
John?
Yeah, and I also believe too, and you can tell me if I'm kind of speaking out of turn on this, that there's a lot of these programs that are only available if you have a business improvement district.
Well said, John. Yes.
Okay.
Lori, would you sum it up?
My question is, what kind of assessment is that going to mean that the businesses which are already struggling, some of them not barely even getting by, are now going to have going forward to repay this loan? And considering that their council is kind of, you know, they're representatives, but they're not representative of all the businesses, all the types of businesses in the town. So the commercial properties that are assessed as business properties, like apartments and those sorts of things. How is this going to impact?
We'll have to bring that to their board, because they voted to do this. We didn't make them do it, and we didn't eventually through it. It was something that they wanted to say, they brought it to us, and said, this is a project that we as business owners want to see. We want dry streets, we want this.
We want it now.
We want it next, we want it sooner than later. So we're really facilitating a project that they want to do. So, you know, I mean, I guess that question is better suited for the business partnership board. You know, I sat there, they were in full agreement, I watched them vote. So I can't,
But there's been many criticisms of the HPV in the past, so much so that the council even voted or made efforts to disband the HPV. So they very gingerly brought the HPV back. The HPV has been criticized for being political, for not being representative of the business interests in the town. And I just think that the council kind of has a duty, not just to the homeowners, but to the businesses, to make sure that something that they're getting involved in on behalf of the commercial property owners is representative and is well thought out.
Are you aware of any business that's opposed to this?
I think that there are probably, most of the businesses that I know of probably know nothing about.
I mean, it's advertised.
It's not a council issue.
Okay,
Yep.
that's just my.
Okay, closing public portion.
Final concern, one more question, on Washington Street. Was DBIZ created just for this, or is it a new entity that is the size of the whole town that can now be established to do other things and other things? Or is it its sole mission, this particular flood issue?
DBIZ is not an entity, it's a designation of an area.
Okay.
And this was a lapsed ordinance, and we just redid the ordinance with the same boundaries. We
Doesn't
had
change
to
the
say,
boundaries, this is just updating things for us. To make it coherent with what we're doing with the loan application.
and yes, other loans can be applied also.
Okay.
So final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-13-11, an ordinance creating a downtown business improvement zone, DBIZ, within the adopt?
I will offer that.
Offered by Ms. Ryan.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Kane. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
On for second reading and public hearing is ordinance 0-13-12, an ordinance authorizing the leasing of certain capital equipment by the Borough of Franklin, State of New Jersey, from the county, Monmouth County Improvement Authority, and the execution of the lease agreement relating thereto. This ordinance was published in the clarity due to the addition of two terms and we now move for a public hearing.
There will be all together and have Steve explain it or not?
We need to have the hearing separate.
Okay,
If you want to
no problem.
explain, have Steve explain all of them.
Because they're all gonna fall right
Together.
under the same, but I'll let Steve talk. It's basically gonna, what Steve says is gonna cover ordinance 12, 13, and 14, and then we'll have public hearings on each.
Okay, the first one is 12. 12 covers the authorization for a street sweeper and a dump truck with a plow for $330,000, for not to exceed $330,000. And 13 covers 2 police cars for $70,000. And 14 is the borough's guarantee of the bonds that are going to be issued by the county. And the reason that we're doing this is a group of municipalities and school boards got together like we do every 2 years with the county, and we do this bonding program together in order to A, save money on the issuance costs of the bonds, and B, most importantly, to get the county's AAA guarantee on these bonds, which significantly lowers the interest rates that we will ultimately pay once the bonds are issued. And as a county requirement, we guarantee repayment of the bonds. The bonds are issued in the name of the county, and we guarantee those bonds, our share, our proportionate share of those bonds. So we did this, and we've been in this program many times before. The county runs it every 2 years. And we're in for 2 police cars, a street sweeper, and a dump truck with a plow.
Okay. So I guess I'll open public hearing of 013-12, and this is for the DPW equipment. Any other questions? Hearing none?
Okay, on final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-13-12, an ordinance authorizing the leasing of certain capital equipment by the Borough of Franklin, State of New Jersey, from the county, Monmouth County Improvement Authority, and the execution of the lease agreement relating thereto. Someone offer a motion to adopt?
I'll offer it.
Offered by Mr. Redmond,
I'll second that.
seconded by Ms. Ryan. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie? Ms. Kane?
Yes.
On for second reading and public hearing is ordinance 0-13-13, an ordinance authorizing the leasing of certain capital equipment by the Borough of Franklin, New Jersey, from Monmouth County Improvement Authority, and the execution of the lease and agreement relating thereto. This was published in the June 28th edition of the Shorter Times, and now be open for public hearing.
Anybody have questions on 013-13?
Street. Chief Fluid, I was wondering if, now that the vacancy is much lower than it was a year ago, are you relooking at your entire asset plan to see, are there as many calls? Do you need as many cars? Do you need as much gas? Or are we just on the same cycle of buying cars in a repetitive manner? Or has anybody looked at, this is different than it was a year ago? What are the real needs now based on the fact there are 40% less people in this town?
There are less people, there are less calls, the crime has probably increased.
We wouldn't know that because we don't get a
Yeah,
report.
Well, actually, my report's online. Well, I've done one.
I mean, a public report.
Yep, the crime has gone up. Calls have gone down slightly, but the crime has gone up. At this point, yes. The 2 cars we have, they're both 1 7 years old, one 6, 1 7. 1 7, 1 8, which for a patrol car is just aging. Most departments have a cycle of getting rid of cars after 3 or 4 years.
And most go more than 3 miles out of to get to a
Well, it's not the actual mileage, it's more of the average it's spent running. and how you use a car. You know,
Like,
I own a pickup truck that's 17 years old, that's in great shape, but I don't use the way I use my borrow car because you can.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is because we're at a much lower vacancy rate, are people, have you relooked at the schedule of police officers that then again affects the amount of time that is required in a car? And has any of this been considered when looking at new assets?
Yes, there's no need for two cars, is definite. At this point, the amount of money we're putting into keeping these cars on the road is just not cost efficient at all. They're used every day.
All right, I'll look, I mean, because you opened the door, I'll look at guidance on the council and when would be an appropriate time to ask why Highlands does not regularly publish a police report, because if crime is on the rise, we should know about it. And we shouldn't have to come to a meeting like this and hear about it once a month.
Well,
So
if-
try to get it.
Yeah, that's,
So then-
but you can do that on a couple of ordinances. Yes, this is about cars right now,
Okay,
so.
all right, I'll wait.
Anybody else?
Just so I understand, are we leasing or buying? It's a
Buying.
Please.
It's called, the program is called the lease program, but we out and out buy the cars and we pay back the county. So it's we'll make an out and out purchase to the vendor. They just, because of the way the statute's crafted, the bond law's crafted, this is called a lease purchase.
Are we looking at getting rid of the old cars? Somehow, to make some money for
Absolutely.
that?
Those cars?
Yeah.
No, we don't keep them.
Okay, are we going to get some refunds somewhere?
Well, the cars normally, the process is the cars are auctioned off unless there's a need from another public entity. Could be our own, could be ourselves, like, let's say the recreation department needs a car, it might be suitable for them. Or sometimes we get, sometimes we get requests from other municipalities. In the case, Union Beach is a perfect example. Towns in Monmouth County donated cars to Union Beach after the storm. Sometimes things like that pop up. But most of the times the cars are auctioned off to the highest bidder.
And I will say, because our block is virtually empty, going all the way to the bulkhead, I do appreciate actually having you guys drive around, because I think sometimes, you know, when we first moved here, it was like, oh my God, this is so safe. And I think after the storm, just because not all of our friends and neighbors are around, it just makes it a little different. But to Maureen's point, you know, it is a very small area, so perhaps, and I'm not talking about days like today or tomorrow, but looking at some alternative means for police officers to patrol bicycles. That's very common. You know, those little two-wheel thingies, I'm sure they cost less than, thank you, they cost, I'm sure, less than 70 grand a pop. You know, so there are other means, I think, that we can also explore, you know, in the quest to kind of save money everywhere that we look.
And we do have police walking, but again, that's for public portion, this is just for cars, so.
Can I just say one point Joe failed to mention? This request is 2 years old for 2 cars. It has been deferred at least 2 budget cycles on these cars. So this is not post-Sandy need. This is a pre-Sandy need that's being answered now.
Okay, so it's couple.
On final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-13-13, and ordinance authorizing the use of certain capital set aside for our funds, which is from the Monmouth County Improvement Authority and the execution of the lease and agreements relating thereto. Is someone offer that for?
I'll offer it.
Mr. Redmond?
And I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Ryan. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francis? Ms. King?
Yes.
On for second reading and public hearing is ordinance 0-13-14, and ordinance authorizing the guarantee by the Borough of Highlands, New Jersey for payment of principal and interest on the capital equipment lease revenue bonds for 2013 Highlands project of Monmouth County Improvement Park. This was published in the June 28th edition of the New York Times and we now move for a public hearing.
Anybody? Hearing none? Close public portion.
On final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-13-14, and ordinance authorizing the guarantee by the Borough of Highlands, New Jersey for payment of principal and interest on the capital equipment lease revenue bonds Series 2013 Transit Project of non-county authority. Someone like to offer?
I'll offer it.
Offered by Ms. King,
I'll go ahead.
second by Mr. Francie. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie? Mr. Francie?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Ms. King? Yes. Okay, moving on to other business, we start off with the borough engineer status report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Tonight's report, I'll talk about the recent dredging of Jones Creek down at Snug Harbor. That work has been completed. The county took care of that in about 2 days. It was a shared service through the county with a minimal cost to the borough. The county also took the spoils pile that was on Shore Drive next to the bank. Basically, the county still has to come back and do some repairs to some of the damage they did cause during the operation. And then Tim is going to sign the report or the permit on the behalf of the borough so we can submit the actual permit to DEP. Because during the operation, we're operating under an emergency permit. That work has been completed. About 4 foot of dredging took place. So the creek is about 4 foot lower right now. So the operation was a success. Washington Avenue, as many of you know, that work has been completed under the contract that was provided to L&L Paving. The road was repaved up to the Recreation Place intersection where the drainage concern remains. That's still being worked out through the legal side. Also, there's a couple of sinkholes that have reared their ugly heads up at the Cheerful Place intersection, right next to the inlets. One is broken all the way through. One is not far from that. Being that L&L still has an open contract, I asked them to provide a price to go in and fix the. It might be just a damaged pipe. It might be a bad joint. It's tough to tell from roadside, obviously. So they are providing a price to go in and do some exploratory and repair those joints to fix those sinkholes. Bayside Drive, contractor has mobilized. He got his markouts for utilities. He did his stakeout work. He's currently set up to start with the concrete work. And if all goes well, he will have that road paved by the end of the month. Moving forward, under grants, the DOT has announced the next round of funding grants through their local aid program. As for local aid, or I should say municipal aid, bikeways, transit village, and safe routes to transit, those applications are due September 20th. Being that we only have, well, I think 2 meetings between now and then, we should start talking about what you guys want to do with regards to submitting any kind of projects. I was thinking, just an example, might be a portion of Portland Road, because that connects to 36. Maybe Shrewsbury Avenue downtown, as that road's starting to show some significant wear. But think about it, just a couple ideas just to throw out there of what we could possibly do to submit this year and try to get some funding from DOT. Also, just to advise everybody, the house lifting grants, we do have a final word from FEMA and OEM. That project is going to be moving forward quickly. The DCA grants that the state has offered, the $150,000 and the $10,000, those applications have been extended till August 1st. So if you haven't applied yet, do yourselves a favor, get in the system. The worst they can do is say no, but if you don't ask, it's always no. All right, so if you're interested, any of your friends or neighbors are interested, please have them apply. There is still time, but time is running out. That's about it on the engineering side. I want to change my hat for a minute and go to the zoning side. There's something that's come up that I've been seeing a lot as we're starting to get these houses up in the air. Recently, when the borough adopted the recent ordinances regarding house lifting, there was a 3-foot rule that was put into effect for stairways, access, ingress, egress, and it reads as all property lines. I was against this when it came out because the old ordinance said to put that steps can go to the property line without any kind of penalty. Putting this 3-foot rule, especially on a lot of the smaller lots downtown, really puts a hardship on people. And what's resulting in is the mechanism that's there is I have to deny them and then send them to the zoning board to get the variance approved, which is, in my own personal opinion, it's an undue hardship to people. It's a time hardship, it's a financial hardship. I'd rather get people up in the air, get them back in their houses and try to get, things returned to normal as much as possible. So I guess tonight I'd ask for maybe some reconsideration to maybe eliminate that 3-foot wall, at least along the front property line. So at least the front steps can get down to the, be able to get to the property line. That would eliminate the variance condition. I think I've sent at least a half a dozen to the zoning board so far for that very issue.
It was not our intent to impact the ordinance relative to the front side yard. It was only the side yards to provide access for fire people support.
Okay, but then how do we rectify this?
That may be fixed legislatively. There was legislation recently passed that hasn't been signed by the governor yet. Fixes that. I forget the exact title, but it's called automatic variances, something like that. Where for these issues you get an automatic variance and it addresses these side stairs and things like that that are permitted.
Do you have any kind of timeline on that?
But
From what I hear, the governor supports it, he just hasn't signed it yet.
Be careful with that because it's for, the way I read it, would be to allow for, say, like a front stoop with some steps. Right now, this one in front of the board was for a little more of that, just to run this, lack of a better term, the porch along the front of the house, which would still result in a variance even under that statute. So our statute could actually take care of that as well, just to try to keep some of that, some of that away from the board. I mean,
Is there any way we can empower Dale to use common sense for the short term until we change the ordinance?
yeah. Thank you so much for the common sense for it. I guess the common sense would have been not to approve it in the first place.
Deputize him with common sense.
I tell you what, you really can't make it up. I'm telling you, you really can't.
If that would open us up to other problems without having an ordinance, because it would be his.
It's going to take 2 months to get an ordinance.
Right, the problem is it gives a numerical value and it states any property line. So common sense or not, I just don't have the mechanism to do it.
Right, okay, so I think we need to start something as soon as possible, and if the governor comes through, fine. We can take it off the books or take it off the table, or whatever the situation, but this is deceptive. We are not looking to give even more hardship to the people who are trying to get into their homes, so let's do it.
Dale and I can craft some language that you guys can have a legislative solution here. We just have to get that ball rolling.
I would like to get that ball rolling.
I'd like to do that. Dale, you ready for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'd love to eliminate that because, like I said, I think right now I'm sending people. Madam Clerk, you can stop laughing anytime now. I think right now we're sending people to the board just for really no reason.
So let's just start this ordinance and get it rocking, okay? Okay.
Thank you, Dale.
No problem.
Thank you.
Now, are you all done, Dale?
Well, I guess I have to be. Common sense will tell you that.
Okay, number 2, planning board request for extension of time to respond to ordinance 013-16. Tim, do you
Yeah,
want
I can touch briefly on that. What's happening is there's a timeline that we're trying to follow in terms of the public hearing notification for the ordinance. And the planning board is requesting an extension by 2 days. I think it carries them out for 2 days that they need. So it coincides with the meeting rather than holding a special meeting. So that's the intent.
I'm fine with that. Chris?
I have a problem. We don't have a motion, but at this point, if you were at the planning board meeting or listen to the tape that Julian provides, which is an excellent service, and thank you. The planning board attorney did not answer the spot zoning question. He said it was outside his purview. It was up to another tribunal. And I have a problem with that because we can't move forward on that ordinance until it's spot.
Well, I don't think we're going to move forward on that until everything's. Okay.
No, I understand that, but we have to direct the planning board to answer the question.
Okay. Right, but we can also grant the extension.
Oh, yes, no, the extension is not the issue as much as
I understand.
coupled with the
Right, we
extension
want those-
is an
Right.
acknowledgement.
Right.
He said he can't do it, and we need to tell him he has to.
Right, yes, we find the answer, but what they're asking What tonight is not that,
Sorry?
they're asking for an extension.
Well, that's my point. I want to add to the extension the request to answer the spot zoning.
So, well, Carol, honestly, could probably go back to the zoning board and tell them if the extension's okay, can you incorporate these kinds of concerns? Sure. And let them know that you want that addressed as well, and get it back. Yes. And if that holds it off more than the 2 days, then so be
Right.
it. That's what we want to say. Okay, okay?
Yeah, we need that.
I just one comment. I think you'd have to take a formal action of the extension, I would believe.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
We'd take a formal action. Okay.
So I move the extension.
I second it.
With the language that we've
Right, now, we're just saying we should do this via resolution.
Right.
Yeah, so we could just make a motion now.
She did.
Yeah.
And Kevin seconded.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Reddick?
Yes.
Mr. Franzi?
Yep.
Ms. Lee?
Yes. Okay. Bay Avenue sidewalks, Tim?
Basically, what we're been faced with, and this is definitely pre-Sandy, but post-Sandy, it's even more evident. We need to consider doing whatever repairs that are necessary from various tree removals and sidewalk disrepair over the years. I know we've talked about this at least a year and a half that I've been involved at this table. I want permission to go ahead and move forward with soliciting basically our public works guys, and we have a good group of guys, but I think that scope of work is outside the realm of getting it done quickly and efficiently, and also dealing with some utilities and other issues that we're going to run into. So I'd like to re-engage the engineer. We're going to identify, I think the last time we took a look at this, there were at least 80 earmarked sections that we're going to have to measure up, and it's probably gotten worse since then, since Sandy, and we need to address this.
I was in Iowa for July 4th, walking around Cedar Rapids, and they actually had a grinding service. They have the same issue with the trees raising the panels, and wherever there's a disconnect, they grind the leading edge, all right, and it's a machine, it's not done by
Right.
hand, and they go ahead and do that. So not necessarily do you have to replace everything. It can be a combination of grinding the raised lips and replacements on where it's possible.
As long as we're all in compliance with ADA compatibility, I think we can do anything. So depending upon the level of the lift, but I agree, we'll search all alternatives to try to keep it cost effective, but do the job.
Some of the cities here do that too already. Like
Sorry?
Newark and Hoboken, some of the cities do that here already. Where they'll grind off that
Right.
lip to smooth it out. Trenton does it too, right?
It's not an inconsequential job. I mean, it's a grinding machine that's quite substantial. It's like cheaper than replacing the concrete.
Where it can be, yes.
Okay, so we have to just give you official,
Yeah, and then we're going to have to come up with costs, because Steve's reminded me about the financing.
well, first you get prices and then we let Steve say no. Right?
I'm not necessarily going to say no, depends on the price.
But do we need to vote on it?
We need to just get it,
Okay.
Thank you.
Timmy, you know, get back
Municipal Arts
together.
Project at the TAC, that's Tara.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the public know, there are many projects going on that Tim has brought to the recreation center that is taking place in this building. There's also a couple of programs going on in the TAC with young people and seniors. There's a new one that's going to start in a few weeks, and this is what I want to let you know. The young people will be working directly with the seniors. They'll be partnered, doing a project about Sandy. They're going to be displayed to the public on the sidewalk on the weekends outside in August. So I urge you to just take a walk
By the TAC?
Yeah, outside the TAC, and take a look at what it is. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports, finance?
I have one item. I have gotten the numbers to move forward on the PPDR demolition bond ordinance. I got an email yesterday itemizing the different aspects of what's going to be done. The estimated cost with a contingency, a 10% contingency built in, is $2.34 million. So what I'm requesting is that council move to the bond ordinance on this and get it prepared. And Arcadis is telling me that it should be 90-10 from FEMA.
Wow.
Okay, so I want to be directed to move forward and have the bond ordinance prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
PPDR is the personal property improvement, which is one of our next biggest hurdles, so I think it's really imperative.
That does the demo too,
As we know.
right? Yeah, just for clarification,
Yeah.
that does include private property debris removal and potential demolitions. So I want to be clear on that.
We haven't approved that, right?
We haven't approved what?
That contract.
No, but we need the funding in place to do the contract.
I need to make sure we have it out there. This $560,000 for that contract might not make a lot of sense because none of us understand the scope of work involved. Are there 200, 300 houses that are potentially involved, or are there 20?
They're estimating, I think in his email to me, he was estimating 50. But there's more to it than that. Besides houses, I'll give you an example. Discarded tires, cars, boats, and he has estimated numbers for each one of those in what he sent me.
I understand. My problem is, why are we hell-bent on providing that service to homeowners?
We're not providing it to the homeowner, we're providing it to us.
Yeah, I mean, I
They
thought,
don't have to live next door to a home that's been abandoned.
But are there provisions to get the money back?
yeah, well,
There's a couple things here. First of all, it's a grant through FEMA that they offer at 90-10. We can, through the processes, attach liens and so forth. FEMA then is going to want to subtract that for however many years to make sure any of that money that we recover goes back to FEMA too. So you're not going to make money off it in that regard. So we can either try to go this way, or we can be stuck where we're at.
I thought, let me just clarify something. From the meeting that they came in and presented this program, I was under the understanding that the council definitely wanted to move forward, and the only thing that we were waiting for was a final cost estimate on this entire project. We had the consultant's fee, we didn't know what the demolition and debris removal costs were going to be.
That's what we
And
went ahead and,
that
excuse me,
condition-
Chris. And then we agreed to go ahead and get the information that we needed.
Yeah,
But
so.
we did agree that we needed to have this done. Chris, I believe that you did too.
No, at some point, we had 200, 300 homes involved, all right? But I don't understand, me, not the council, I don't understand the scope of work that we're asking them to do. Because at this point, if you look at 50 houses, $560,000, we paid $100,000 for each of the houses,
10,000.
You're close.
10,000.
We're not going to use up the entire pot of money. Or if there's only 50 houses, we're not going to
Well,
use it all up. We're not going to divide it out.
This is based on 50. This was based on 50 houses.
And I'm not sure I understand where does this 560, the private property owners are gonna, for example, could be pushing back at us, could be going to court, this could be a protracted, drawn-out thing.
But they were
If they're not willing to participate in the program, then we're going to have to take another method or measure anyway if they walk away from the home and the home is left there. So we can still
They described
make an
this.
attempt or not.
They talked about the different
They have
ways.
to give
that
us
we're
a right of
going to
entry.
Right, we have to get right of entry, we have to get a lot. If this gentleman says, I want it done, and this person says they don't want it done, then
Then we're gonna have to go a different way, but for now, there were homes that were abandoned prior, Sandy, that have not been touched.
Correct.
We have to do something about it. It's not right for the neighbors to have to.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer, I'm gonna partially answer that question, but I'm gonna defer to Bruce to clean it up if like I go past the legal point of this, but if you declare a house a health hazard, once you follow the procedures that relate to that statute, you can go in and demolish, and we've done that.
we don't have the money in the budget to do that.
No, this had nothing to do with
Yeah, but
the
legal,
money.
remember we did a couple ordinances a couple meetings ago, just to clean up what you had on the books already to make this easier to do.
Now, let me just say this. Your issues with the contract, you should have Arcadis, we're gonna have a couple of months in this process. So my recommendation would be bring Arcadis in at the next meeting, talk to them about your concerns over that contract, but in the meantime, you can move forward to put this in place. And if you wanted to pick, if you weren't satisfied, you could pick another contract, another consultant to do that contract. But at least this will get you the authorization to move when you're ready to move.
And you're saying this is FEMA grant?
Well, he told me tonight, we were all sitting there, he told us tonight it was
It's
90-10.
definitely FEMA, PPDR, they call it PPDR, Private Property Debris Removal and Demolition Program.
Yeah.
All right. We do need Arcadis to talk about it.
That's, yeah, that's,
I think we should
Yeah,
vote on
I think we should vote to move forward with this.
well, okay, so you want me to move forward?
Right, so yeah, I think you're gonna have three, and then Chris can talk to, we can talk to him at the next meeting.
Okay.
But we can't move it up much longer, I mean, it's.
Well,
We're gonna run out of time.
I'll prepare the ordinance.
We will run out of time if we don't move, because the window for the demolition and all will have to be done by a deadline. And we've been talking about this at, Arcadis made at least 2 or 3 presentations, so this is the piece that we needed to put into play. I'll grant you, at one time, we were thinking it was 200 to 300 homes. We've done some more reassessments, and we're trying to really focus in on more of what the true cost is going to be. The other cautionary thing is you don't know what you're getting into, and this is what they've run into in some communities that have done this project, with contaminants and other issues that can be explosive. So
We have, is the list of houses, the 50 houses, potential houses, is that available?
Well, it wasn't included in the email that he sent
Is
me.
it available?
we have documentation in the construction office of potential and what people have called in right now. How they came up with the 50, I didn't give them direction to go look. I said, come up with a number that we think is semblance of what we're doing. So we're going to match up everything, hopefully through the other program with the workforce development that we're putting into place. We're going to have additional inspectors out there looking at just that. So we're really trying to narrow down. We don't want to take down houses that don't have to come down.
Is this limited to houses that are unoccupied? Because there's other houses that are occupied that are also a problem.
No,
So is this grant just for those that are unoccupied?
Yeah.
Well, that would be comforting, I mean, we should.
Well, it's definitely for vacant.
It's definitely
Yes.
for vacant, I can tell you that.
And
I
that's
don't
what
know that we're
started
going to
this.
go in and remove people from homes and
Oh,
knock
no,
down their
that's
house.
what
If that's
I don't know
what
about
you're
that grant, so I can't speak to that, but the ordinance would not be.
It wouldn't be just vacant.
The ordinance, I can't speak to the grant.
So that, I guess I'm asking, the grant, is it limited to those houses that are abandoned? Or is it also vacant?
This is a Hurricane Sandy situation. This grant came from,
Understood.
well, that would, in my opinion,
I'm asking, does it have to be abandoned, or can it just be vacant?
No, it can be vacant.
I mean, there's a big difference in my understanding.
Right. No, I don't think we have to legally define the abandonment. I understand what you're saying now. I thought you meant someone who was living.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what I
our
thought.
concern up here is obviously the public safety issue.
Right.
We have houses now that have mold and stuff like that. Those are first priority. We've got them.
No, it doesn't, I understand what you're saying. It doesn't have to meet the abandonment regulation, no.
Right.
If it's vacant, absolutely.
We don't need to make, okay, we're gonna just hold the public portion, okay? I will say though, if anybody has a direct finance question for Steve, because it's 112 degrees in here, and they'll let him go home. Unless
Let
anybody
you go.
has a question
I
for
know,
Steve.
but if anybody has a
about
finance question.
I have one.
Finance,
Steve,
yeah, yeah, only for Steve.
Yeah, only for Steve related to the grant. If we, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, I understand why you're saying we should go ahead, but if we garner monies by putting liens on properties and so forth, can we apply any of those monies towards the 10%? 10% has to be cash out of our pocket.
Those
no matter
monies
how you
have to
look
go back to FEMA eventually. They're not going to let you make money off of money they've given you.
Right, so you gotta cover their 90% first.
No, but I mean, okay,
The
but
lien
for
money
example,
goes to
No,
for
no,
example,
no, you have to refund back their 90 before you get to your 10.
Right.
That's the question he's really asking. But can we take any of that money for our 10%? No, not until we cover their 90.
right, okay, but if once you covered their 90, oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not.
You
That's
can't-
not
you
gonna
can't-
happen.
Got it,
Can't make
okay.
Yeah.
Actually, two questions for you. To follow up on that, is the same answer for banks? So if we have a situation where a bank currently owns it and we basically go ahead, they do nothing, they just, slap a little sticker, and we go ahead and use this grant money to demolish it, can we then go after the banks to, in essence, cover back either the 90 or the 10?
Well, okay, I'm gonna partially answer and defer to Bruce on part of that, because that's really more of a legal question. If the bank walks, they're no different than if you walk, okay? Now, my opinion, I guess, would be we'd probably sue anybody. But when you place a lien, what ultimately happens in the long run on a lien is the borough has the right to foreclose on the property and resell it. So the recouping of your funds, although several years away, that's the method that's in place in New Jersey to recoup in those kind of situations.
And so just a follow-up question. I understand that the budget discussion is going to be on the 21st of August, and there's a fairly detailed, itemized list. How can we get even a further itemization, like other charges, $3 million, that kind of stuff? How can we?
Yes, the budget document is being placed on our website.
Okay, so it's going to be under every single line item?
No, well,
Well,
no.
I mean, if you really want that, you can get the payment of bills every week.
The legal-
Right here, I mean, that all adds up.
The
Well,
legal,
I would assume that somebody, that's just like,
yeah, no, there is,
I mean, that's.
in most of the budgets, this is a little bit of an anomaly year because of what happened, but most of the budgets are itemized. So if you see police, perfect example, we have a fully itemized budget by line item that makes up the total other expense budget within this budget document. And for most of the budgets, we have that. Okay, what has happened though, in this process, because of Sandy, we have added along the way additional monies, not necessarily earmarked for any specific, let's say in the street budget, signs, but maybe for a contingent amount for whatever might have to be done. I'll give you a perfect example of one thing that did happen. In the stormwater management budget, the situation at Snug Harbor was a last-minute change. So that budget, I believe, is normally $24,000 a year, went to $55,000. It's going to cover the $28,000 and change to the county for the dredging and the permit, the approximate $3,000 that went into the permit. In my detailed spreadsheets of all this, I haven't put that in yet because that was a last-minute add that we just made. But for the most part, departments submit or I do the actual budget detail for every line item that's in the budget.
and that's going to be available on the website?
No, that's not.
Well, not that, because the budget.
Yeah, the budget document itself is available. If you're interested in anything, let me know. All right?
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand, I'm sorry. Anybody review 31 Woodbridge? After the demolishing of the properties, of the houses, what happens if they're abandoned, the bank abandons them, perhaps who owns the properties and what happens?
Well, the property still stays in the ownership of whoever owned it. The borough places a lien. That property can't be sold without that lien being extinguished. And in the event, after a certain amount of time, the borough has the right to foreclose and take ownership. At its option, though, at the borough's option. In the meantime, there's one other step out that I didn't bring up. In the meantime, the borough every year has what's called a tax sale. and these liens get added to that tax sale. So as an investor, you can come in and potentially go as high, get as much as 30% on your money, depending. It's an auction, and the interest rates are the bidding tool. So the bidding starts at 18%, and there's penalty provisions. There's a lot of provisions in this lien law for the investor. But you could theoretically, if you won an uncontested bid, win 18%, and if that threshold of that lien is over $10,000, get additional penalties on top of that, going as high as about 30%. So, I mean, there's a risk involved to an investor. You may not want the property, and you might get stuck with it. But the borough recoups a ton of money off of that sale every year. And when we have a special lien, it'll get put in there with the regular tax liens.
Does that include businesses also?
Yes.
Sorry, I've got one more question.
Just one quick one, okay?
Is there a budget for the environmental committee?
There's a $1,000 budget in the environmental committee.
Okay. How would we go about getting some of that? We have a beach cleanup schedule.
Just basically, who's the chairman of the environmental committee? Usually, the chairman of the commission would put through a requisition to make the purchase, and assuming that purchase was an allowable purchase, it would go through.
We're just gonna have a bunch of volunteers and we wanna get some refreshments, that's all.
Then, well, my recommendation is go through Tim to start the process of the requisition, and figure out who the vendor is going to be, or if you're going to lay the money out, let's say, and ask for a reimbursement, then just come up with an estimated amount. You'll have to provide all the receipts, and then you'll get reimbursed.
Okay, all good? Done?
I've done if everyone else is. All right, thank you.
Public safety?
I have a lengthy report. Most of which I will not be reading. Just a couple quick things. We have had multiple cases involving copper thefts to houses that are not being lived in. We're just encouraging people to keep an eye out, for their neighbors mostly. We have so many people in town, so many people with trucks and truck people that we move to, but we are having an increase in copper thefts. Under administration, I'm going to bring up the transition period from the firehouse to the trailers, specifically Broadview. Mr. Hill's been working with these people tirelessly. He's on the phone with these people, and he's made headway, but so far their performance is not acceptable at all. For example, they called us Friday afternoon and said that they will be performing maintenance sometime Friday, Saturday, or Sunday between 10 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. We'll lose phones during that period at some time. That's all they can tell us. They called us Friday afternoon to tell us that. We argued back and forth with them for a while. We had it narrowed down to one day where we had to have our lines forwarded. They can't explain where one phone line disappeared to at all. They can't explain why we don't have backup at the firehouse anymore. We lost that. Like I said, huh?
The existing line should have always stayed there. That should have never.
Well, this is the problem. I deal with the project manager. I mean, most of which Mr. Hill's doing. And I'm sure he's banging his head against the wall.
Well, there's been other interferences along the way, but the fire departments, the phones are ported over from Verizon, so those numbers over at the firehouse, you just have to make sure that numbers are reassigned there. Whatever numbers they were, that's a Verizon issue.
Yeah, because we can't lose that.
Yeah.
That was there before you moved in.
I mean, there is a project manager.
Yeah.
There is a project manager on this, Scott Ledone, I think his name is. He will not return my calls anymore, will not return my emails at all. The information he's giving us when we call and deal with their maintenance people is wrong. I think we really need to have him come in and explain why their performance is so bad. I mean, it's just horrendous. I mean, how can you call a police department on Friday and say, oh, sometime over the weekend, your phones are going out, we can't tell you when?
I don't think it's acceptable.
I mean, it's horrendous. Like I said, it's not, I mean, and it's not our line, our end. I mean, I've been working with them, I've had my people work with them. Mr. Hill, I know, has been banging his head against the wall with these people, but it's just not acceptable to call a police department on Friday afternoon and say, your line's going out in the busiest time of your year. I can't tell you when and for how long, but you know, they're just going out. So that's about it with them. Also, just a suggestion, you know, I mean, I know we did a lot of this on the fly, but for the water and sewer for the trailers, specifically the police department trailer, we're going through more water than we thought. That and the sewer has to be changed out by Johnny on the spot. Each time they come out, it costs us $150. They're coming. I have them come every other day. Otherwise, it's empty. We can't use the bathroom. And we don't know if it's possible or not, but we may want to look into maybe putting in a permanent water or sewer, being we're going to be there for some time. I don't even, Dale's gone, I don't even know if it's possible or not, but it's just, I don't know how clear it is. Okay. The upside of this is we did have a generator installed. We did lose power last month, and it did work very well. We only had a power for like a minute, so that worked good. We did receive a grant for body armor. I do mandate my officers wear body armor at all times, with a few exceptions. Even I, every day we wear it. But the best are paid for through a grant, so we don't put out any money. We were again awarded $10,000 through the state for a drunk driving grant, enforcement grant. One of our specials will be resigning as he's gained full-time employment. I did propose a stop sign to be put up at Orchard and Ocean up by the new Quick Check. On our tax map, it says that Atlantic Highlands owns that intersection. I went to Atlantic Highlands, their tax map says we own the intersection.
Is that coming down
From East Point.
From East Point?
It's, the jurisdiction is DOT actually.
I'm sorry, Rob?
DOT takes jurisdiction of that intersection.
It may split
How
that.
and why?
Well, it's a county road, but DOT says they have jurisdiction.
Well, at this point, Atlantic Highlands, what they did do is they gave me a license agreement to put a stop sign on their side of the street.
That'd be a great idea.
But we definitely need one, buddy.
If you can see, we should stop it.
Yeah, but the only thing I don't know at this point is I know we vacated a portion of that street, but I don't know who to ask to find out because it's not on the tax map.
But even if it's vacated, we still need the stop sign.
Still need stop sign, but just for enforcement purposes, although we can enforce it either way. If it's Atlantic's or we can still enforce it. But I still would, you know.
I know you want to know, but.
It would be good to know who it is. After Sandy, we did an investigation with the Division of Consumer Affairs and the Division of Criminal Justice to look into unlicensed contractors. We actually provided them with a house where they had people come in who weren't licensed and so forth. We did do that.
Sting.
Sting. Yes. It worked out very well. I do have some statistics that I'm not going to go over now. It'll be online. Okay. That's really all I have.
I have got two things for you. Speed limit on Route 36 between Conclusion Field and the bridge, and back from the bridge to Conclusion Field is 35 miles an hour, correct?
No.
Well, the signs are up saying it's
I know.
35 miles an hour. Is it 35?
That was put up during construction. We've asked the state to take them down, and if their state's gone, they're gone.
So let's take them out. But what's the speed limit then?
What's the
The
speed
speed limit would be 45.
Well, then I think that's one thing that should be taken care of somewhere along the line. Because there's people who come down, they see 35, they drop to 35. Then somebody comes on the outside and goes 60.
I mean,
People walking on the
we
bridge.
called the state to remove the signs, and they just
It's
have not
safe,
been,
that's a big thing.
they haven't helped at all.
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, we could take it down for them if they give us permission. I don't know physically.
I don't know if they're gonna. I really don't.
Give us permission?
No, yeah, they left the signs there, I really don't think they care.
Well,
They left the bridges done, they're gone.
All right, just tell them we're gonna do it, let us know if you don't want us to.
Yeah, I hear from you in 2 days, then down.
Ah, that's okay.
But
I'll get
with
ahold of
that,
somebody, yeah.
it's the issue of people walking and riding bikes on the bridge, and people are whipping past them. So, I mean, 45, maybe they're doing 45, I think people are doing 60, 65. I know the motorcycles are going faster than that.
I know during that project when Seabright had requested that the speed limit remain at a minimal, but I don't think that impacted from our side of the bridge back, but we'll have to verify. But I do remember they were adamant about keeping that speed limit lower on that section of Ocean Avenue. I think that was agreed to by the state. So we'll find out if they think that impacts us still.
It used to be a one-lane road, each direction, and with those 35-mile-an-hour signs on. That's why it was there.
Yes.
And they are in the summer, they changed it to 40.
And one other thing that if we could, I see a lot of cell and texting messages going all over from different states for enforcing. I think we should set a plan within at least the department to enforce it within the town. Texting and cell phone use. Yeah, because it's.
No, I've looked, I haven't seen any for that at all.
Just for safety precautions. You look up, you look down, the next thing you're in the back of some car or some kid, and it should happen. Let's not do it before it does happen.
All done, Joe?
I'm done, yeah.
Anybody have anything for Joe so he doesn't sneak out?
One thing really quick,
And I'm good.
I know you are, that's
If
why.
that was the whole issue with the cars and stuff like that, I can tell you, because I'm doing a lot of walking now under doctor's orders, so I'm out like multiple times a day, night, or whatever. I don't see the presence of marked cars as much as I would like to see. And my thoughts, I mean, even last night when I was walking around, this is me like picking on you or whatever, is I'm not surprised that we've got the crime is rising. Because I'm walking down the street going, if I'm like some kind of evil genius, I could just go nuts with like massive crime, go wide open. I mean, there's nobody to watch anything. Half my street is Washington Avenue. I went down and like counted one night. We've only got half the people that used to be there. So I mean, if there's nobody, but even if it's just like I said, just so that somebody that's going to do something, they see a car that says police on it or whatever, and just
So all we have 13 officers, and then they're out, when they're out as they can be, keep in mind, every officer has numerous duties. Just basically, like at a 4 12, for example, like this, when you walk around a lot, the sergeant is on. Right now, he's doing nothing but evidence. I'm moving down the day shift, and we have evidence we have to get destroyed or so forth in the county for hundreds of pieces of evidence. And another officer on 412 from the patrolman is there of gun permits, which is time consuming, and they're towards the news right now. Everyone's a gun. So they are out, and when they're not doing that in certain times, certain periods, you know, for them it's busier administratively.
Yeah.
Another time.
No, I'm just saying, if we run the car and like keeping people safe, I mean, that's just, like I said, just because we're wide open, this is like post-Daniel stuff, this is, you know, normal stuff.
Okay, anybody else have questions for the chief?
I do. I have one quick question. I know you said the reports are online, the crime reports, but you haven't done it in a couple months. Do you know when they might be caught up?
Well, this one gives some statistics for the last couple months. I'm not going to go back and write ones every month, but there's some statistics are up to date.
Okay.
And now that we're transitioned to a trailer, and we actually have a computer network that works.
Okay. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask the chief what you said, crimes on the right, what crime in particular is.
Well, we have the theft and copper. We've been dealing with, in 6 months we've had 22 burglaries. A lot of which we've made arrests on, some of which we haven't. So most is going to be thefts and burglaries.
Any violence crime?
Other than the shooting we had right after the hurricane, maybe one or two aggravated assaults, which is actually down for us. Most of which aggravated assaults are usually, fights between people at bars or yeah.
I'm sorry, can you understand? What's the total project? Is that Verizon or?
Patricia Rivera, very low
Sorry.
I couldn't really hear what you were saying about the phone issue.
Oh, the phone.
Is it Verizon that's agreed? Who's the project manager that's not?
The phone company we hired is Broadview Communications.
That's kind of unacceptable.
I'm telling you.
As a resident, I want to know the resident.
Who deals with that? Is it you guys or?
Yeah, I'll be dealing with it. I've been dealing with it every day.
Yeah.
Part of the issue though is if a notification is made for an update in the service, we do have the ability, and I think this can't be lost, to notify the county immediately for backup dispatch. So I want to assure the residents that we are not without phone service, and that's something we need to make very clear.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Administration?
Yes, I'm ready. I won't be, just a quick FEMA update. The latest numbers that have come in with regards to the total value of what we're putting into the system is over $3 million. With the anticipated 90% share, we're hoping to get back $276,430. And that number will fluctuate and keep increasing. That does not include any of the major projects that may be coming up outside of the normal categories. So still working away with that every day. There's numbers changing. We run into more problems still, believe it or not, storm related. We get reports from different departments of some issue that they didn't recall, but it's valid, so those numbers have to go to FEMA too. So that process is still in play. The FEMA recovery team has been approved to work with us, and New Jersey Future is part of that process, and they will be setting up a public session that will be held August 7th at 8 p.m. at Henry Hudson Regional School, and that's going to be a community involvement piece of steering committees and an overview about long-term recovery for the whole community. So we're encouraging everyone to get out there. We will hopefully have robocall messages and other things out. Folks were encouraged to participate with that system through the initial citizens participation forms, but to date, I don't know that we've gotten any in. Okay, we've gotten none in. So the steering committees from the professionals within the town have been set up, but everybody will have an opportunity to sit on a committee and also chair a committee if they would like. So I would encourage everyone to come to the August 7th meeting. I did meet with the Monmouth GIF reps yesterday. That's our joint insurance fund, to discuss the flood insurance issues for municipal facilities. I guess good news, bad news, if there is any, because most of it isn't good if you're talking flood insurance. They don't project that the flood insurance quote for the Borough Hall facility at its current location would be going down much at all. They do have some hope that the former quote on the community center property that was around $100,000 will be coming down, but they couldn't give me a percentage. So they're looking at that. I think we're going to be prepared to move with FEMA reimbursements and everything else to get that facility moving. Just real quickly for Department of Public Works, I am reminding everyone, although folks still think they can put things out every week, on the next bulk and brush pickups, DPW asked me to remind folks, really aren't scheduled till September. Okay, we've done our cycles, and that's what we do. We know, I think our guys have been pretty aggressive at still addressing that, but those costs are passed on to the town. When we pick up those items, they have to go in the dumpsters, we have to pay to discard them. So when we're talking about costs and the way to do business, we want the town cleaned up, but it's a catch-22 sometimes, so we're asking people not to illegally dump either. They've been tending to grass cutting, debris removal. Temporary berm work, as Dale mentioned, was done up on Bayside Drive. We have other areas of roadway on the hill that we're looking at too. We did have a power outage at South Bay Avenue. Our guys were called out. Jersey Central was there, fire department was there. I want to really recognize and thank everyone who participated with that. Power was back on quick amount of time. Not to be outdone by that, we then had a water main break a couple days later on Bay Avenue. So New Jersey American did tend to that. I apologize for the inconvenience on that. It was something that impacted a lot of residents down there. Repairs for electric at Huddy Park and the traffic boxes are underway. That's something that's been on the radar, and we do have, finally got quotes in, so that's been, should be starting within the next couple of days. From their building and housing, 105 permits were issued for the month of June. I generally get a monthly report from them. $65,125 in fees were received. The inspection details, he had 201 building inspections, 215 electrical inspections, 82 plumbing, and 12 of the fire codes. Code enforcement, the only report I have is that 40 inspections were done. We had multiple failures on the COs, as you can imagine. So he's working with the residents and holding to the fire. Some summonses have been issued. I don't have the exact number on that, but I know some properties have been issued summons. Going down to Recreation Department, needs to say our summer rec program started up here at the school. We're very happy the school accommodated us. We have 108 children enrolled. They also had project graduation, tea nights, and many other activities throughout the month of June going into September. There's sports camps up at Henry Hudson in cooperation with Hudson, and lots of other activities. I don't want to read you the whole list of activities, but we'll have access to that. One thing I need to point out to the public, unfortunately, we do have a shortage of lifeguards, okay? The issue there is, without lifeguard staff, we can't have guards at beaches. Okay, that makes common sense for the engineer, my buddy over here. But the bad part of that is, you know, folks would be expecting and anticipating guards, but without staff, there's really nothing we can do. You know, it comes to having certified staff in place. Two of the potential guards that we had applied, one did not pass his recert, and to the happiness of the other, she became pregnant and was told she shouldn't work on the beach by her doctor. So our shortage went down to 2 without, you know. So if anyone knows of any certified lifeguards, we have to call out. We're asking for folks all the time. It is going to be an ongoing issue for the summer. There's really not much else you can do. If you don't have the guards, you just can't put a body on the beach without certifications. So I want to bring that to the public's mind. CPC, Behavioral Health Services, had 2 counselors 2 days a week at the municipal office trailers from April through June. They provided service to 50 individuals throughout their term. CPC is now in cooperation with using the school 2 nights a week up here. They have permission to use an air-conditioned room across the hall. But seriously, if anyone needs assistance, if mental health services or some crisis intervention, anything related to Sandy, we do encourage you to reach out to CPC. They're great folks. They're providing that service with a grant to the town at no cost. Further down, they're going to be doing a light recreation program for children on Thursdays from 2 to 4 at Huddy Park. So they're doing an event after our summer program ends here. Parents are involved and you know, encouraged to participate with their children if they can, but they're going to be doing a program there again. They got a grant to provide that service, and they're going to be doing an outdoor program Thursdays starting July 25th through the end of the summer. So CPC is really here to help, and they're thinking of creative ways as well as the arts programs and others to come in and do good things in the community. Next item I have is the Army Corps did visit us on July 2nd, 2013. Basically, Mr. David Gentile, Jason Shea, who oddly enough was a former resident of Highlands. He grew up in Highlands, and he's now on the Army Corps team. And Deborah Volbel from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection were in attendance. The Corps is going to be undertaking a low-level analysis to compare alternate methods for protection of the Highland shoreline. That does include, and I'll put this out there, the potential raising of the town that's been out there in the media. The Corps is doing a cost analysis, low level, on what that cost would be. So they've heard that there was a discussion, and they're amicable to at least doing the CBA on that. What they're going to be doing is coming back to the borough. As I understand, there is federal monies in the hopper for protection projects, and this is not a veiled item of how we're going to proceed. But if that opportunity comes to us, we need to be ready to make decisions because that window will close quickly. And we're going to get as much information as we can. I think there were prior designs, maybe 5, 6, 7, that were out there at one time years ago. They're going to be updating us and having a meeting with the governing body and then presenting information to the public sometime in the fall. So apparently there is federal money available, but they're not going to wait around to redesign and do all kinds of things that we may want, but we're going to have to take a very serious look at that from the community standpoint. I just want to note, too, Fort Hancock Advisory Committee, which is the 21st Century Advisory Committee. Myself and Mayor Nolan were nominated and appointed to sit on that federal committee. That's for the reuse of Sandy Hook at Gateway National Park, the Fort Hancock District, incorporating approximately 35 historic buildings. It is a federal advisory committee. They are looking at the reuse. I would strongly encourage anyone who's interested in the reuse or redevelopment of Sandy Hook to visit the Fort Hancock 21stcentury.org website. That's forthancock21stcentury.org. All the information is up there. All the meetings are public. A list of the members of the committee are on there. Everything they do, I think some folks here may have been in attendance, is very transparent, and they're looking at the best reuse and make recommendations to the Department of Interior on that. Also, requests for interest. Any nonprofit groups, private groups, anyone who's interested in any way, shape, or form that would want to take a shot at maybe doing something in the future at one of those 35 buildings, let Gateway National Park know. Now is the time. That REFI, they call it, will be going out, but they wanted us to let people know. Look at the website, take a look at it. You never know what could come out of something like that. So that's really, I wanted to give the council.
Could you repeat the website again?
Fort Hancock, all one word, 21st, 21st century.org. You can probably get to it through Gateway National Park, but that's the direct link. Okay, so their next meeting is August 2nd, 2013 at the chapel at Sandy Hook. I think they have air conditioning. I'm not sure. But those sessions, just so you know, are 9 to 5:30 when they hold those meetings. They're all-day sessions. Public portion normally takes place at 4 p.m. So you can sit through the meeting or whatever, but public portion for questions and answers takes place directly there. So I wanted to make sure we gave an update. Last on my list, well, two things. So I want to mention workforce development. I'm sorry. Chief stole all my time about the phone stuff. The borough's emergency response and follow-up efforts, I just want to let the public know, and the mayor and council, have been recognized by the Monmouth County Joint Insurance Fund. We have 2 plaques and proclamations. I'm not going to hold them up. But they really appreciated the fact that the borough of Highlands, in the opinion of others, not us patting ourselves on the back, really did a phenomenal job with the safety and protection of the residents of our community pre, during, and after the storm. And really what they gauge that on is by the number of injuries that we may have reported too from the volunteers and the workforce. So they recognize that effort, and I just want to commend everyone here. There is a plaque we'll put in maybe the chief's office.
Well, actually, Tim, just to bring that up, we really should formally acknowledge our volunteers and our DPW and stuff. I don't think we've done that since the storm. I think everybody knows we appreciate their efforts, but I don't think we've had anything where we acknowledge them publicly.
We did speak of a committee a little while ago, but everything going on, it was put off, so I was going to maybe get that going back again, that committee in the fall.
Yeah, because I think we should formally recognize DPW, fire, first aid, police, everybody that had a hand, Office of Emergency Management.
That's basically what that plaque is acknowledging, everyone too,
Right.
that had that role, and that's greatly, like you said, that wasn't nominated, that was something that was recognized by our peers throughout the county.
So we can task Chief Blue getting that together.
Actually, we already started a committee.
All right.
That's what I heard, but I've never seen the report.
Right.
There's no committee.
Anyway, in addition, the New Jersey General Assembly also recognized and acknowledged municipal leaders down in Trenton one day. That was a fiasco because I think they were having budget hearings that day. But municipal administrators were invited down to that session, and we really appreciate that they recognize the efforts too, because it's a total teamwork approach with everybody that's working on that. Last thing I need to do is just give you an update on the workforce development program. This is a program that we had prior, and we've got a grant to proceed. We do have positions. You have to be eligible though for the workforce development program. So if you're interested, it's the Division of Labor, through Monmouth County. We have positions of DPW repairers, clerical, volunteer coordinator, and building inspectors. Part-time work, limited, but they're going to be in tomorrow, and this isn't by my doing, but they're going to be in tomorrow in town because we have many applicants from out of town. They're going to come in tomorrow, so if anyone's interested in applying for the workforce program, they can come in and go through the process right in town. On that note, 19 Bay Ave from 9:30 to noontime. That doesn't mean that's the only time you can get to them, but they're willing to come into town like they did the prior set.
Okay, Ms. Ryan, library. Thank you, Tim.
Sorry about the length.
No change, no report. Wonderful.
I'll speak for the Highlands Business Partnership. I don't see any representatives here. I know they are looking to volunteer for the Plant Festival. And the telephone number there is 732-291-4713 if anybody's interested in volunteering. Shared services, I'll also defer. We are working on some stuff in executive session, some shared service opportunities, and that'll come out at a later date. So with that, I'll move to the public portion. And I'll go to Kim. And I'm just going to ask, maybe we keep it quick. Keep maybe one question, just because it's 10 o'clock. Okay. Well,
I'll keep mine to one, you can use my extras. I just want to know if there's any plans for substandard housing and code enforcement. We keep talking about bringing the town back, and we're addressing the flooding issue. Towns looked like crap for a long time. It's still going to look like crap, it's just not going to flood. Is there anything we're doing about that?
We are in the process of bringing on part-time code enforcement. We're having some, taking applications and stuff like that. We've got to find the right candidate. That person will focus on the property maintenance issue. We are having our current code enforcement officers doing a lot of COs and stuff of that nature, which is taking up a significant amount of time. But we really need to feet on the street with the lawns and the things that are growing. Okay, thanks. John Bentham?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. When the Atlantic Highlands Regional Sewer Authority is dissolved, will Highlands have its own sewer authority? A board appointed by the council of like citizens to oversee the system?
If we have it sold, it, yes.
Okay. So we're thinking about selling our sewer system? Really?
Absolutely.
I didn't know it's sewer system. I did water, but not sewer.
Sorry?
I know water, obviously, like New Jersey American water, but I must have made sewer system.
There's 3 people involved, 3 people interested.
Oh.
And John, just so, it would be an interim plan until it would bridge it. We have to have that on file with DEP.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention, I sent some of the council members an email about this, and I don't know what can necessarily be done about it, but I've definitely noticed a serious increase in like fuzzy animals running around all over the place. I mean, it's like, just to give you an example, a few weeks ago, and I have nothing against this. This isn't me personally, because I don't have any problem. I have a whole family of like raccoons that took up residence in my yard, and it was a mom and babies, and they were cute. I took a bunch of pictures, and that's great. But I'm seeing an increase in rats and possums and stuff. And then this past week, I saw a gray fox on the street, and I've never in 20 years seen a fox. So then you got to kind of say, and my worry is, now I went to the police department when the raccoons were there, and I said, you know, I don't have any problems with them being there, but what's the procedure of how to deal with it? And the answer that I got from it wasn't the chief, it was another police officer, and they said that unless the animal is dead or diseased, that they do not intervene.
It was an emaciated fox, I just got on video.
Me personally, I'm not going to do a medical exam on one of these guys. You know, it's like, so the thing is I think what's happening is with the abandoned houses are providing the habitat, and with just enough people in there, there's the food. And I think they're just moving because I mean it's not only what I'm seeing, it's the quantity. I mean it's like Mutual Homeless House Wild Kingdom now. I mean they're everywhere. We literally stood on the street in a neighborhood, right, and within a half hour we saw 2 raccoons, a possum, and a fox. And oh, that's the other thing I want to mention too. There are definitely, we need to get the cat program back up because there are definitely a lot of cats, and there are definitely pet cats that have been abandoned. Because I've seen them with collars and stuff like that. And I know like some of my neighbors, you know, when they show up, we'll throw out a little bit of food for them or whatever. But, and they're ones I've never seen before. You know, you have one or two neighborhood cats, but I'm seeing ones you've never seen before, and they're just, because they're looking for it, you know? So like I said, I don't know what the solution is. I'm just afraid that if one animal gets rabies, it'll just explode, so we'll all get it, and then all of a sudden, you know, with the kids running around and stuff. So I just wanted to mention that. Last thing is, of course, my favorite topic, Captain's Cove Marina. Well, like a status on knowing what the town is doing with that. Last council meeting I was here, I was told that at this point, the marina is operating without a mercantile license. And I've sent you guys emails, you know, as I usually do. And, you know, the situation, even up till this very day, okay, is that Captain's Cove Marina is business as usual, but it's not business as usual for us. You know, there's a big delivery of pilings this past week, and just today, there's a big dredging operation going down the end of the stream. So as far as I'm concerned, there's a business operating. We know it's operating without its proper licensing. What is the council doing about the situation?
I'm advised not to say anything because there's pending litigation, but what I'll say, is that there are really two tracks going on right now. There's a negotiation with attorneys, and I'm speaking with his attorney, and separate from that, there will be enforcement mechanisms related to any code violation.
Okay, now, the only problem I have with you saying it's in litigation, okay?
I didn't say it's in litigation.
Okay, where litigation problems is we have ordinances on the books. Okay, and I presented some of them last council meeting. It's like, for instance, the lot, okay? It's now a junkyard, okay? The man has no off-street parking as required by ordinance, okay? Among a plethora of other violations. That shouldn't be a litigation issue. It should be, the violations are there, the town then moves in and deals with those violations.
I told you I said that it's just wrong track. That there's the potential litigation involving where I'm dealing with Mr. McKenna, and then there's separate enforcement mechanisms for code violations that will be unfolded.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is that the town is moving forward to address all the violations.
I can't tell you what you're hearing, but I could repeat what I said.
Okay, I don't know why this is a big secret. Okay, either the town is addressing the code enforcement issues and problems, or they are.
The town is taking steps. We're not trying to be secretive, but I can't go and say, well, this is Chief Lewis's secret plan to go and enforce everything.
No, here's the deal. Is me and my neighbors want to know, okay, after this guy has been operating ways in for the longest time and continues to just do whatever he wants to, like nothing's going on. I don't know why the plan, it's an easy question. Either the council's proceeding to move against Mr. Rosiak because he doesn't have a mercantile license and to enforce the ordinances and the codes, or no, I don't understand why that's, like, told you.
I just said what we were doing.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's a yes or no question. Okay.
You got it, you did hear.
Yeah, what would be the timeline where we would expect to see some sort of action or some sort of improvement in the situation?
I can't say that, predict that with any accuracy.
Okay, because we've waited now months, this is years and years that it's going on, and now we're 7 months even post Sandy or whatever. And to give you an idea of what the attitude of the community is today, even with the dredging operation, and I saw something today that just blew my mind. I had this guy block off my driveway to my property for 2 weeks and get away with it. Today they're doing dredging. If you wanted your boat in and out of that marina, they happily move their equipment aside and let you in and out. You know, I mean, that's the attitude of kind of what we're dealing with here. So it's, to me, it's very, you know, the guy's operating a license, he should be shut down. You know, I don't understand what the, and like I said, the ordinance violations are just, you know, ginormous. I mean, is the council even aware of the dredging operation that's going on today? Okay. Does he have permits for that?
Permits from the town.
From the state, John.
Okay. But yeah, once again, he's still, like I said, even today, he's still operating in situation normal. And I even had somebody say to me on the street, you know, because people ask me, hey, what's going on? And the exact quote today from a resident, oh, well, I guess good old Freddie just gets to do whatever he wants, I guess.
We have nothing to do with the dredging.
No, that's fine. But people want to know that something's going on because it's, as at this point, if you look at the whole situation of what's going on, nothing's happening. And people are just done. I'm done living across the street from the junkyard. You know, it's been 7 years now. then another thing to address Mr. Hill's thing about the garbage disposal stuff. I sent you guys an email about this too. Guys illegally disposing of his garbage. You know, stuff he's supposed to have commercial garbage pickup. He fills up the garbage cans and drags it to a residential property. I mean, this is the stuff that goes on a continual basis, but it replaces one gigantic code violation. And that's all I've ever asked the council. I mean, I've asked like 9 councils or however many councils is just enforce the ordinances and the codes. That's it. So as long as what I'm hearing is that yes, things are proceeding and the situation is
Things are
being taken care of.
proceeding, they just take a little time.
Okay, and I'm a happy camper, and if somebody asks me, I can say, yes, I've been told by the council that yes, things are moving forward and that to correct and improve the situation. Is that the correct
That
interpretation?
is correct.
Okay, I'm a happy camper.
We can safely say that.
Okay.
Okay? All right, Mr. Mantrod.
I'm Manrod 268, I have 3 things. One answer to John, he's got a fox down here to get rid of the cats. We got 6 or 7 of them up in the hill, in Bayside Drive. We got no more cats. They take good care of it. They came over from the bush.
Okay, what's your question, Don?
And the other thing is, you want the attorney for the August meeting to look up that spot zoning, because the planning board is not going to give us an answer. And there's a ruling on that spot zoning already by the court.
Well,
I think you should take a look at it.
I read it.
You can get back to
They
me.
didn't really opine on the spot, they didn't make a determination on the spot zoning in that case. They mentioned it as an issue, and they talked about the legal principles behind it, but they didn't make any finding as to that ordinance at that time.
To me, it's spot zoning. And the other thing is, Dale, how come they're only paving up to Matthew Street and not to King Street like you said they were going to do?
Out of money, Don. We've got no
Not money,
money.
you said the bid came in lower, and we got money.
We didn't bid the whole thing. We never bid the whole
We're
road.
going to just let 200 feet go to hell. The rest of us up
Not
there just
necessarily.
gonna die.
Keep in mind, Exxon's paying for this portion. We're all gonna have the funds to match to go the extra way. You know, I mean, that's not saying we're not gonna do it, but we just don't have the funds to do it right now with everything else going on.
200 feet you were going to do is not going to be done, so the rest of us have to start. Last time that road was done was 30 years ago.
Oh, I don't dispute. If we didn't have the storm, we'd be more than fine. But right now, we're low on funds.
Don't ever tell me again you're going to pave something. Because you were saying you were going to take it up to King Street, and it wasn't.
I really don't make those decisions, Don. You know that as much as I do.
Okay, Mr. McAleer.
Too late, too hot for the mess.
Mrs. McAleer.
I'm going to reserve all my questions for the next time where we're going to have AC.
Ms. Dibble.
How are you?
You're good?
It's hot.
Mr. Few.
I have Arnie Feud, 50 Valley Street. I'm gonna ask again, why you keep saying we're looking into it, we are gonna hire somebody to do property maintenance. This has been a reoccurring answer for probably 4 or 5 months. Do you have a plan to
We
hire?
do have a plan. I'll let Tim elaborate. I don't know how much.
Can I discuss potential legal?
Yeah.
I'm deferring down to,
I'm not sure what you're gonna discuss.
he's asking about the code enforcement and the issue with civil service that I'm dealing with.
There's some potential issues with civil service dating back several years, which needs to be cleaned up for the Service Commission before we proceed with that.
Okay, did you hire somebody who's not civil service?
No.
So in other words, there's no property maintenance until this legal issue is taken care of.
Not that no property maintenance.
There has been summonses issued by the code enforcement. Our plan was to put in another part-time person to aggressively go in the other direction.
Now, is there a list of the citations that have been made in the last 3 months?
Probably on
Through this
the, it may be on the court docket, but I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, now this would be through the court clerk? Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be, if a summons were issued, I'm assuming it would be on the court docket.
And what's expected from the town to the code enforcement officer on a month-to-month basis as far as policing the town? What the question is what is expected of the code enforcement officer for the last 60 days?
what we have with the code enforcement position, as you can well imagine, is a part-time person who's trying to do the best that they can under the circumstances of COs and getting other things online as well. We've also gone a little bit cautiously, and I will say this from the borough perspective, post-Sandy, of how we're going to go after certain items. We're hoping to get the other part-time position filled so that we can then take that on.
Okay.
That's the best I can tell you.
Okay, I know he's been busy. This was an issue before the storm, but could you give me the information that you had of how many inspections there's been done in the last month?
I think we did that in the last report.
Yeah, but it sounded like 70 a day.
No, it sounded like 600 in the last month inspections. That's what I heard. So
But that's construction. You may be
yeah,
getting
that's what I'm talking about.
So was that
the construction office. There were 201 building inspections, 215 electrical inspections, 82 plumbing, and 12 fire.
So 500 inspections in 30 days, physical inspections by one person?
I didn't, hold on.
No,
You didn't
no,
ask.
is that what-
Okay, there's a building, there's electrical, we have a plumbing, and we have a fire inspector. So the building inspector would do some, electrical may be the same person, plumbing is different, and fire is different.
Okay. Is it a physical inspection? Did somebody go?
That's what's recorded here.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's the
They actually
inspection,
go and they
that's
do-
the inspection detail, that's what that is.
Okay. And how many electrical inspections per month? 250, is that what it's?
Not per month, that was for the month of June.
Yeah, but 250?
215.
Okay. Okay, the reason I question this is he works 2 days a week, is that correct, the electrical inspector?
They work as needed, especially now. with
The
what's
electric,
happening.
hold on, the electrical inspector is the same individual who's our construction official,
Right.
okay? Generally works 3, sometimes he's come in on Saturdays. So to say how many days he works,
He
I
could
would
be
say
working 4, maximum of 4.
part-time in the evenings, yes. He's not a full-time inspector.
Okay. But it comes down to one inspection every 15. It doesn't seem, okay. But anyways, okay, I'll go on to another question. So that answered that. With this grant of $530,000 to take down 50 homes, that's $10,000 per house.
Since the arcade is here, that's not a
Oh, you're talking about arcades.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have, that's $10,000 per house. Is there any reason why we can't do this work? It's like under the property maintenance thing. You didn't hire a property maintenance person, so you avoided doing this. It got properties behind on health and welfare issues that have been sitting there for 5 years with red stickers on them. Why can't the town do what, you're always trying to, what I see is that you're trying to get a grant to do the work that we could be doing in-house. Is there a reason that we have
Who's
to?
gonna do it in-house and what money they're gonna use to budgetary?
What that would come from is if you had a property maintenance person, which has been explained, say you could, it wasn't, you could get the fines. We have not collected, not very much fines, I'll find out how much. In a year's time, everybody's yard that's a mess could generate in town maybe $10,000 a month.
Do you know that they could go to court and fight this over?
Sure.
Fight the
Sure.
state, and they may not get, the judge may throw it out of court.
I
And they may
understand.
not, or they may reduce the fine that we have down to a minimal amount of money.
Or they may not
So-
get the
Or they may not get a fine. So
Right, but
you can't justify that salary for that time period.
Yeah, but the thing is, doesn't the judge work with the town because they were appointed by the borough council to work with the town? Or isn't he honored to work with ordinances instead of a personal, I'm gonna give this person a break? Wouldn't he see that,
Well, I mean, we can't
I mean,
talk
this
about
is I've heard this before.
No, but if
Kevin.
that's the reason you're using for not doing it, it sounds like Mr. Redmond was suggesting, well, we might not give a violation
No,
because
no,
it might
not
not be
us.
going to
I said that when he goes to court, where a judge may not take the violation if it's $100, he may reduce it to 50 or reduce it to 0.
But we gotta start somewhere.
But
We've got to
if he
start
sees
somewhere.
that it's important to our town, they obviously do it in other towns around us. Rumson, I'm sure, does it.
You're financially different. The financially Rumson is totally different than Highland.
Okay, Atlantic Highlands has less people than we do in Masons to do farm. For property maintenance.
Okay.
So the tax base would be equivalent except for the marina. Which, I guess what I'm saying is, it's really.
Their tax base is percentage of the marina, which they already took the money for the boaters and haven't given it back for the year.
I guess what's really disappointing in the public outside this room and in the town and in the state needs to realize just what the attorney said, that it's a legal thing and it's really too bad. So why would anybody want to come to this town and invest in it if...
Well, that's not a nice thing.
No, you said that this has been tied up in court with the public service people for enough...
It's 4 months.
Yeah, no, but you're saying that it's been going on, you can't hire somebody, so there is nobody to do the position. So what that means is it's not being managed on a local level to be taken care of. That's what, because you guys don't make it important enough to do.
I mean, it is very important. It
You
is our
don't-
top priority. That's why we're doing PPDR. That's why we're working through civil service to get the code enforcement. I know it's taken 4 months. We advertised.
It's been a year.
And you know what? We have one applicant. Isn't that a shame? Because they don't care so much.
Why can't the policemen be doing it?
They can, and they have helped in the past. They've given us a list of 100 properties, and we have that.
Well, why don't they write, well, because if a police officer, he's a sworn officer to be trained, if he writes an ordinance, which they won't do because they've been told not to do, a violation of an ordinance, to follow up on it. They've just chosen not to do it. They had the power. I had the power. Everybody in this room.
But I can assure you, code enforcement is a priority here. We all see
Okay.
it. We see the town, in the post and everything.
It was before that.
It was before that, but now it's really bad. And I'll be the first to say it's really bad now. There
Okay.
should be nobody that puts $150,000 back in their house living next to weeds this high. That shouldn't be. And that's the bottom line. And that's what we're working very aggressively to do, but it's just, it has to be patient and we have to get people on board. I encourage people to keep applying. Like I said, right now,
But
one
apply
applicant.
for what?
For the part-time code enforcement, there's one applicant.
And it's been put into River Times? and-
Yeah. Been on the league, so.
Is it a position, do you have to be qualified for the position?
I
We need common sense.
All right, Maureen?
Yeah, a somewhat related question. The next bulk pickup being September to me is unacceptable. And I don't think, we don't need our trash picked up twice a week. Why can't we renegotiate the contract so the trash is picked up once a week and then see if then we can get more bulk? Because there's mattresses and yards. Pardon me? Well, then,
We will still do bulk if you want to pay for the $20
But
permit.
but I'm saying that, again, this is all related. The town looks like, it looks really bad. Atlantic Highlands, where you live, they have bulk pickup once a month. I mean, something, we can't go 3 months with, and that's why there's animals, is because there's all kinds of stuff in
And they
people's
also have
yards.
14 people who work in their public works department. We have 3.
Well,
So I prefer you not compare us to not equal
All right, well, then I'm
situation.
saying that we should re-examine picking up trash twice a week and redeploy that money to bulk, at least for a period of time until the town gets cleaned up. I don't think, we have half of the people and we still have trucks going down every street twice a week. For what?
It would take half the time and cost the same thing if you haven't renegotiated the contract.
Maybe it's not the ability to do that.
I'm sorry, what?
The contract is up this December.
Okay, but why wait 6
You
months when
can't
the town is
renegotiate, I
50%?
mean, well, you can ask, you don't have to wait till the contract expires.
It's just putting more money in their pocket. few of us have, the laborers
Well, they're
have.
still doing the rounds, there are still people on.
Yeah, but they're
There are still
they're
once
not
a week
allowed.
would be enough, once a week would be
Your
enough.
household, not everybody.
At many houses, if we have to balance this, I mean, we're not being consistent when we're saying, you know, we're worried about health hazards, but we have people's yards that are just as bad as the houses, but we're not making it easy for them to get rid of their bulk.
They can call anytime.
I'm
Yeah, but they
saying,
have to pay
on a
extra on
regular
top of
basis.
One of the station.
On a regular
Okay.
basis.
Mr. Woodman?
With 15 Ocean Street. I'm a resident of Highlands, and I've enjoyed this, but I'm actually here in my capacity as the attorney for the County Soil Conservation District. It's in charge of stormwater, soil erosion, and site control. And
Can you don't speak up, please?
Speak up. Sure. I'm sorry. And they actually asked me to come and address the engineers of the council to see if we can help in any way. There's apparently been a very few, if any, permits applied for or certified plans for demolition or construction from Highlands, from the residents. And so the district supervisors have said, you know, what, they knew I live here. So they said, you know, what's happening? What can you do to tell them that we're available to help? They'll come out, they'll meet with you, they'll meet with the engineers. I know you're familiar with freehold soil. And they also wanted me to tell you that they put in a new procedure for what they call a Sandy permit, so that you don't have to get a full certified plan approved before you can proceed. It's a $200 flat fee with a expedited approach to it. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. I'll give Carolyn, I'll leave her some contact information for the residents, and I know that you probably have it, but you know, I'll supply that to you too. This is a little background on the district.
Thank you. You can just provide it to Carolyn, just make sure we all get it.
Thank you.
A couple little things. I'm also on the Open Space Committee. Keep in mind for the future, if there's some new open space that's available, you know, maybe the committee can get involved and assist with financing something going forward. So I just wanted to point that out. Also, for the public, I'm involved with AAA, the American Arbitration Association. I'm now a certified Sandy arbitrator, and I've been arbitrating claims between Sandy victims and their insurance companies. And what we found is that people from this area are not applying for arbitration when they can, and the procedure works well.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Find me, can I donate a fan?
Yes.
You got it.
Okay, we'll wrap it up with Pauline Denning.
Okay, I promise I have one quick question. It's very directed to Mr. Francie because he wasn't here at the last meeting. And, sorry, it's Pauline Jennings, 27 Brown Street. And I want to ask Mr. Francie, why the rush on changing the ordinance? Why the 21st of August, it was introduced on the 3rd of July. What is the rush? Particularly post-Sandy, particularly all of the other issues, pressing issues that you have going on. What are you thinking?
I'm not sure why you're directing me to me, Paul.
Because you weren't here and I heard everybody else's response. You weren't here and I wanted
I
to
would
hear
have
your
voted no.
response.
I just want to think we shouldn't change it. But that's not going to change the way the vote went.
Thank you. That's all I want.
Can I just say one quick question, just a very quick one? I'm concerned with the dredging about the quality of the swimming water. Is anyone testing the swimming water?
Monmouth
Like
County
Captain
Health,
Hope was dredging today. I mean, there are
Monmouth-
kids swimming in the water.
Monmouth County Health Department tests the water every Monday.
Every Monday.
Every Monday. They get sample, you can go on to the health department website, you can get the sample results for the last 10 years.
Okay.
They test in the swimming areas directly, because what's going on outside the swimming area, believe it or not, may not directly impact the swimming area.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and when you're talking about dredging, I'm not sure which project you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I know you did the Snug Harbor, and I know there was a sign on not to swim, but like have control and just.
But that's not a public bathing area. You can't control that.
No, I know, but I mean, I just want to make sure the word is safe.
But they only do